Hello guys, and welcome to Amaz's Constructed Compendium, which is me analyzing all the new cards for Constructed in Hearthstone in Knights of the Frozen Throne. You guys know that this is like the best guide out there, so welcome. We're going to be rating all the cards out of 5 stars as well. And before we get into it, we'll give you some examples of, what cards are considered good for the from the previous expansion, okay? So the previous expansion is Ungirl and maybe some standard cards or whatever. 5 stars is basically an all-star, right? It's like deck defining, insane. So Patches would be 5 stars. Sunkeeper Terran would be 5 stars. Stuff like Primordial Glyph would be 5 stars. It's just insane, right? 4-star cards are something that is really good and you actively want to put in your decks. So cards like Hydrologist or cards like Crackling Razor Maul would be 4 stars. Now 3 stars are your more medium cards. They're kind of like filler cards and they're still effective. So cards that are like Mimic Pod would be a good 3-star card. Volcano would be a 3-star card. It's found in Control Shaman. So it's just a good card. 2 stars would be like a kind of like a tech card or like a really awkward card. Sometimes you want to play it, sometimes you don't want to play it. Sometimes it just belongs in a very, very specific deck, if you may. Mirage Caller or like Razor Petal Lasher. And we have 1-star cards, which are the pretty bad cards, and you probably don't want to play them. If you can, and probably don't want to put them in your deck. So stuff like Shell Shifter would be a 1-star card, and stuff like Adaptation would be a 1-star card. And finally, 0-star cards are the unplayable cards. You do not want to put any of these in any of your decks because that would be crazy if you do. So those would be like your Lucky Dupe Buccaneers or Stolen Goods or Public Defender. Yeah, these cards are just trash. Okay, good. So with that star system down, let's go ahead and look at some new cards. We're starting with Druid, and we're starting with Common. We're doing this with all the classes. Crypt Lord is a 3-mana 1/6 taunt with, after you summon a minion, gain +1 health. So basically, if you swarm the board a lot, this Crypt Lord can grow as it goes along. It's already a 3-mana 1/6 taunt, so it's pretty big already. And then if you play 2 minutes, it becomes the 3-mana 1/8. It obviously gets better if you put more buffs onto it. So something like, Mark of the Wild, Earthen Scales. You can also make like a Swarm Zoo strategy, like a Token Druid strategy, and you can do like Mark of the Lotus, Power of the Wild, and stuff like that. I can see this card being pretty good in a Token Druid strategy, right? Because it's really big, it has taunt, and it protects all your other cards that are more aggressive in Goku phase. So I would rate this card a 3 stars. Next up, we have Gash, Nash. 3 mana, give your hero +3 attack, and also gain 3 armor. So this is like a worse version of Bash, I believe, because Bash was really good, right? It was actually found in some Control Warrior matchups, but then it wasn't even in the power level of Fire War Axe. But now you can play this in Druid, where, maybe Druid, you have like, the big control, big Druid, right? You want to ramp up to big stuff. You actually want to remove stuff, and then you want to gain some armor. But the thing is, like, Wrath is still just better, right? So this would be like your 3rd copy of Wrath and your 4th copies of Wrath, because Wrath you don't even need to actually use your face to attack. If you hit your opponent's face with this, then it's a 6 damage swing. But usually you don't really want to do that. So I'm gonna give Ganache a 1-star. I don't think it's gonna be that good. It's like a worse Wrath in a lot of cases. Webweave is a 5-mana spell card with summon 2 1/2 poisonous spiders. So poisonous spiders would be the effect that Emperor Cobra has, right? Whatever damages it kills. So at worst, these are like 2 1/2s that don't really put pressure on the board and whatnot. But at best, this is like 5 mana, 2 assassinates, right? Against a very, board-centric matchup. This could actually be really good. especially against you know, classes that only have big minions but not really small. This is really bad against mid range, I believe, because if you know, you're going up against 2/3s and, you know, weapons, for example, then the poison spiders don't really do that much, and it is 5 mana, but the poisonous text is pretty good, so I'm gonna go ahead and rate this 2 stars. I think some decks might want to use it, you know, some control version, because if you're going aggressive, 5 mana for 2/1/2s is not exactly what you're looking for, right? So you want to go a bit faster than that. You know, the rate for 2/1/2s is like 2 mana, right? Because of Firefly. So I'm thinking that this would be more of like a control variant, so 2 stars. All right, next we have Druid of the Swarm, 2 mana Druid. We don't really care about the stats because it literally transforms into either a 1/2 poison spider or a 1/5 taunt scarab. So this is the first time we actually saw a 2 mana 1/5 taunt. Usually 2 mana cards go with 1/4 taunt, right? So 1/5 taunt is pretty damn big. And the poisonous effect, I think, is actually going to pop up a lot because, right, you pay 2 mana for a poisonous minion, and if your opponent only has big creatures and they can't remove your poisonous spider, they actually have to give something up. So in a sense, it's more a proactive deadly shot. You can play on an empty board. You can also play on a board with a big creature on the other side, and then it makes combat really abysmal as well. Plus, it also can transform into a taunt when you actually want to face against, you know, classes that are more aggressive, such as Pirate Warrior, you know? Maybe Token Druid is really aggressive. Maybe Zoo makes a comeback, or Hunter is insane, like Aggro Hunter, right? So the fact that it is so versatile, and both modes are actually very, very premium, because 1/2 poisons is insane. It doesn't die to pings. And 1/5 taunt is actually insane. It's the best 2-drop if with taunt, right? I'm actually gonna rate this a 5-star card. I think this is like going to be a Druid staple. You know, if Druids are not gonna run Jade, they're gonna be running this card for sure. Next card we have is the Strong Shell Scavenger with 4 mana 2/3. Battlecry, give your taunt minions +2/+2. It looks kind of out of place because it's a Druid card. You know, you look at this and you go like, oh, this is supposed to be a warrior card, right? But you know, Druids are actually getting a little bit more taunt support in the form of 1/5 taunts, and also there's going to be another spell card that summons a lot of 1/5 taunts and whatnot, right? If you activate this one time, it's really good, right? It's a 4 mana 4/5. But the fact that you need to actually get taunts and also kind of build around that makes me kind of wonder if this is good at all, right? This kind of reminds me of the 5 mana 4/4. What's that card called? Get ready for my next trick, you know, the thing that busts a beast, dragon, and murloc thing, you know. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. And the thing is, like, I just don't think there are too many taunts right now in Druid. Sure, there's Druid the Claw, sure, there's Ancient of War, and there's also the new Druid card. But I don't really think this is going to work because you're still playing Constructed, right? Minions are going to die all the time. You're not going to maintain board pressure too much. It is a very big buff if you can buff more than one creature. So I'm going to go ahead and rate this. Well, this is the definition of a, you know, deck-defining fringe playable, right? So I'm gonna give this a 2 stars. Next up, we have Spreading Plague. 5 mana, spell card. Summon a 1/5 Scarab with Taunt. If your opponent has more minions, cast this again. So, in a sense, this is like Unleash the Scarabs, right? If you kind of read it. So basically, summon as many Scarabs as your opponent has minions. But, at worst case, you can play this at 5 mana, and your opponent has no minions, you can still get a 1/5. Although I'm pretty sure that situation is going to come up less likely. Anyways, so this is like a bigger, it's like a bigger Unleash the Hounds. So this combos with the previous card that we looked at, but not really anything else. Obviously, the best way to play this is you play this at like turn 6 or 7. Your opponent has a lot of creatures, and then you play a lot of 1/5 taunts, and then you buff them with Mark of the Lotus, or even like Power of the Wild or something like that, right? Ramp strategies could possibly use this as well, because Druids are not really known for their board clears or anything like that, right? Like Starfall's not really that insane. Swipe, there's a lot of decks that can play around Swipe, you know, if it's a mid-range deck, especially Paladin, for example, right? So this card could come into play in that, but I feel like that this card is also really bad in a lot of situations, right? If you're playing against a deck that doesn't really have a lot of minions, so something like, you know, Miracle Rogue, you know, something like Priest or Control deck, Freeze Mage, even against a normal Druid, right? It's not gonna work out too well. And if you're playing against like a mid-range deck with bigger creatures, such as Jade Druid, or even like, you know, a mid-range Paladin, they can get rid of your 1/5 taunts very easily. So I don't really think that this card is good. I think this card is going to be pretty underwhelming. There's a lot of, you know, the ceiling is not too high, and the floor is also pretty bad as well. So we're gonna rate this a 1 star. I don't think this card is gonna make it. Next we have Fate Spinner. Very cool effect. I think it's the only card with this choose a Death Rattle secretly effect, right? It's a 5 mana 5/3. You choose a Death Rattle secretly, and when it dies, it either AoEs everything for 3, or buffs all minions, including your opponent's minions for 2/2/2, right? So it's a very weird card in the sense that it affects everything. And if you choose the wrong mode, you might get screwed, right? So, yeah, it's a pretty cool design in that case. I think it's like a mind games on paper, right? But I think when you actually play this card, it's gonna be super obvious which mode you pick, right? If you have minions, you're gonna pick the +2/+2. If you don't have minions, you're gonna pick deal 3 damage to all minions. And the question is that even good? You're playing a 5 mana 5/3 with an effect that technically your opponent gets to control, right? So I don't think it's that good. There is a chance that this makes it in Token Druid because giving your team +2/+2 is really strong. But isn't Spawn of Dissolve just better in that sense? And Spawn of Dissolve doesn't really see play because it's a 3 mana 2/2 +1/+1, right? So this can go like, okay, maybe Token Druid, well, sometimes you lose the board and you want to pick the deal 3 damage, right? Because the only way you can play this card is that you want for the versatility of deal 3 damage. And even then, I don't see it happening because when you're playing Token Druid, you do not want to hedge, right? You want to just go all in. You just want to go fast. You don't want to go like, oh, if I lose board position, I can do A, right? For example, when you play Pirate Warrior, you're not going to put a freaking Alexstrasza in your deck and go like, oh, if I play against the mirror, I can heal myself back up or something. No, that's silly, okay? So I'm going to give this a 1 star. I don't think it's going to work out. Ultimate Infestation. Wow. If you guys are looking for an insane 10 mana spell, well, no longer is it only going to be restricted for Priest and Mage. Druid has entered the fray with deal 5 damage, draw 5 cards, gain 5 armor, and summon a 5/5 ghoul. You know, I think I'm gonna be doing a disservice if I don't give this a 5 stars because these are all 5. But let's look at this card a little bit more, okay? So it's effectively a Holy Fire, right? Because you deal 5 damage, gain 5 armor. So it's like it's like a Holy Fire. You get a 5/5, so it's kind of like mixing in Fireland's Portal into it, right? And then you freaking draw 5 cards. I mean, what the heck is this? You draw 5 cards? That's insane! Okay? Like, 10 mana draw 5 cards might even see play. And you get all these bonuses as well, right? Sprint is 7 mana draw 4. So, technically speaking, 9 mana draw 4 cards makes sense, right? But you're getting all these bonuses. This is actually, like, pretty nuts. You're also putting this card in the class with Innervate, with Wild Growth, with Nourish, right? It's not like it's gonna be pretty hard for a Druid to wrap into 10, and this is actually like super relevant. Like, dude, how can control decks actually beat draw 5 cards, right? And if you're stabilized against a mid-range deck, this is gonna be insane as well. So I want to give this a 5 stars, but I think it's more realistically a 4 stars, because you know, at the end of the day, it is a 10 mana card. It's not gonna be like, dude, just put this into every Druid deck. But it has a lot of 5s. Yeah, we're still gonna make it 4 stars, okay? It's a very good card, but it's not like an insane card, so 4 stars, 4 stars. It's a little bit of a flavor fail, I know. Alright, and now we have the first Death Knight card. Death Knight cards, or hero cards, as Blizzard calls them, is a new type of card. What happens is you play this hero. It has 3 effects, right? So Malfurion the Pestilent is a 7 mana card. So the first effect is you get to choose one. You get to summon 2 Poisonous Spiders or 2 Scarabs of Taunts. So you get 2 1/2 spiders or you get 2 1/5 taunts, okay? The second effect is you get 5 armor, okay? All hero cards gain you 5 armor, so a little bit of, you know, buffer. And then finally, the last effect is you get a new hero power. So for Malfurion, you're replacing your shapeshift ability with Plague Lord, which is also 2 mana. You get to either +3 attack this turn or gain 3 armor, okay? So let's break this down like a little bit step by step, okay? So for 7 mana, you're summoning 2 minions, okay? You're getting 2 spiders or 2 scarabs of taunt, which basically stabilizes the board, okay? You get 5 armor, which is fine. And then your hero power turns into very aggressive or very defensive. You know, so and you also get to choose, which is, you know, very versatile, I guess. You know, there are games where you're gonna be using both of these choices multiple times. Interesting effect of Fandral, because Fandral, if you have Fandral out and you play Malfurion the Pestilent, you get 2 spiders and 2 scarabs, which is pretty awesome. And when you play a hero power, you get +3 attack and 3 armor, so you effectively shapeshift 3 times, which is pretty cool. But you know, you're combining all these cool effects, all these effects that don't really do that much, right, into a 7 mana card. And then you have to think to yourself, well, is this worth it, right? I think this would be really good if you can actually cheat the mana out and play a Fandral. I think 7 mana, summon 4 minions, and then if they don't kill Fandral, you get to, you know, gain 3 armor and attack 3 every single turn. That's pretty nuts. But if you don't have Fandral, I think it is a little bit, you know, not as good, if you get what I mean. I like summoning 2 minions and then changing your hero power to a Plague Lord isn't really that big a deal, in my opinion, right? The best use of this card, I believe it will be something in Token Druid, where you're summoning 2 guys, right? And then you are using the +3 attack more, because gaining 3 armor is really not that strong in Druid, right? Like, you don't have inevitability as a control warrior does, right? As a Druid, you kind of like, you do want to kill your opponent, right? So if you upgrade your hero power into deal 3 damage to face, then you kind of become something like a hunter. So I think Malfurion the Pestilent, you kind of want to be a little bit aggressive with this, but then at the same time, you're paying 7 mana to summon 2 minions, right? So it's kind of like a little bit of an awkward spot. So I'm not really a big fan of Malfurion the Pestilent here. I'm just going to give this a 2 stars and say that if you play this with Fandral, it's going to be very, very powerful. And finally, each class has a legendary card. Druid got Hydronox, which is a 9 mana 3/7 beast with Death Rattle. Summon your taunt minions that died this game. So once again, it's more of the taunt thing, right? It's kind of weird that Hydronox does not have taunt itself, but then I guess it's kind of weird because if it dies, then it'll come back and stuff like that, right? It's interesting to note that if you give something Mark of the Wild and then it dies, it will not come back because it's not a taunt minion. It's a minion that you gave taunt. So it doesn't really work that way, right? It's kind of like N'Zoth, where you can't actually cheat it like that. So a 9 mana 3/7 is really bad, right? Why the heck would you want to play a 9 mana 3/7 that is like abysmal stats? What the heck does it trade for? And it also has a big butt. Okay, it has a big butt in the picture, but I mean it has a big butt in the form of 7 health, right? You want these effects that, you know, have Death Rattle to do something, to die fast, right? You want more attack and less health, because you can trade for something and then activate the effect. With 7 health, it's gonna be so difficult to actually kill this off, right? It kind of reminds me of Sneed's Old Shredder, because Sneed's Old Shredder was also like a big butt with a less attack that you want to activate the Death Rattle effect immediately, right? So yeah, and also like what kind of taunt minions are you looking for, right? You're looking for like Druid the Claw, you're looking at Druid the Swarm, Shell Shifter maybe. It doesn't work on Ancient of War, right? So yeah, there might be a taunt Druid thing around. You really have to abuse this Death Rattle somehow, and for Druid it's going to be pretty hard to do. So the final verdict for this card is that it's going to be 2 stars. I think 2 stars is the definition for build around fringe cards. So yeah. All right, onwards to Hunter. We have 1 mana. Wait, what are you gonna say? Lich King. Summon your taunt minions that die. Oh yeah, it does actually bring back Lich King, huh? Nah, that's not enough. That's not enough reason to put it in. I disagree with that. All right, onwards to Hunter cards. We have the first card, which is Play Dead. For 1 mana, you get to trigger a friendly minion's death rattle. Okay, so you get to target something and you get to trigger its death rattle. Reminds me of Feign Death, and Feign Death was 2 mana, trigger all minions death rattle, right? So this is a little bit of a smaller version, but it's also 1 mana, so you can actually weave this in quite well. So it really depends on if there are any good death rattle minions in this set. And there are a little bit of minions with death rattles in this set. There's the Blowbat, there's the Abominable Bowman, but I don't think those cards are insanely good. There are some cards that we have right now that you can use it on, like Infested Wolf, there's Savannah Highmane, but overall, I don't think this card is going to be worth it. Now, there is one way to make this really, really good, is that if you can stack death rattles effects in a single minion, then it could be good. So what I'm saying is, if you can put like, you know, adapt beasts, right? If you adapt a beast, put 2 1/1s when it dies, and then you put infest on it, and then it's already a high main, and then you trigger all the death rattles at once, that'd be really good. But then at the same time, it's really cheesy. And constructed, you can't really do too much cheesy stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and rate Play Dead a 1-star. I don't think you want this as a hunter. It reminds me of Smuggler's Crate. Give a beast in your hand +2/+2, and that doesn't see play, right? You need 1 card to activate the other. And the payoff is not that big. It's just trigger a death rattle. So no, I am off this card. We have a 3 mana 4/3 beast called Bear Shark, with can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. So it's a bigger fairy dragon with the beast tag. Now it is insane. It's actually insane if you can buff this up with Houndmaster. How do some classes beat that? Some classes just cannot beat a 6/5 spell shield, this spell shield effect, and taunt, right? There's just no way they can do that. So this is another 3 mana choice for hunters. There are a lot of good 3 mana cards in Hunter already, right? There's Eaglehorn Bow, there's Animal Companion, there's Unleash the Hounds. Sometimes you have to play on 3, you know? Like, there's a lot of 3s already. So Bear Shark has to fight against all the other 3s, but I can see this being better than Animal Companion, right? Like, the can't be targeted by spells or hero powers phrase is actually pretty decent. And I mean, I would hate to face against this if I'm a priest, right? Like, this is just like my worst nightmare. And it's 4 attack. 4 attack is really, really powerful. And with the relevant beast tag, I'm going to go ahead and give this a 3-star. I think this will be a legit choice if you're looking to fill in your 3 drops in Hunter. Stitched Tracker is another 3-drop minion for Hunter. 3 mana 2/2 with Battlecry, discover a copy of a minion in your deck. So you're basically discovering your own deck and drawing a card from it, right? As a Hunter, you really don't want these effects unless you're trying to go off as a combo, right? Usually discovering multiple cards, you want something like insane, right? But if you're using this strictly as a value card, so like a 3 mana 2/2 draw a card, it's not gonna get you there because it does not really actually draw your card. You rather actually have a 3 mana 2/2 draw a card because you can get closer to your kill commands. You can get close to your Eaglehorn Bows and kill your opponent, right? But this doesn't actually draw a card. It discovers a copy of a minion in your deck, right? So this card will only be good in value matchups. As a hunter, you want good statted minions, and you want minions that go face a lot. And Stitch Tracker does not do that. So yeah, against value decks, you just want to kill them, right? You just want to go face and steady shot them to death. So I would be rating this card a 1-star. I don't think this is going to work out. We have a Venom Strike Trap, a new secret for hunters. It says when one of your minions is attacked, summon a 2/3 poisonous cobra. So it's very similar to Snake Trap, but instead of 3 1/1s, you get a 2/3 poisonous cobra. We basically get an Emperor Cobra, right? Another secret for the secret hunters, you could once again the Come Midnight. You know, that card is still in standard. And then, you know, you can do some crazy stuff with secrets and whatnot, but at the end of the day, hunters still do not want secrets, and you know, secrets are not proactive enough, right? The good part of this is that it is better than secrets to attack your face. So it's better than Explosive Trap, because if you have Venom Strike Trap, it's kind of like playing a taunt minion, where if they kill your minions or attack them, you actually get something in return, right? The poisonous text doesn't really come in much because usually people attack your minions first and then play minions. So it's not like they're gonna play Ancient of War and then activate this trap and you go like, oh my god, I just killed an Ancient of War with a poisonous trap, right? So that's not really gonna happen. So yeah, this is going to be a fringe playable. It's gonna be a 2-star card. Exploding Bloatbats, 4 mana 2/1 beast with Death Rattle, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. So you basically get a free Consecrate when this dies, and it's also a 4 mana 2/1, so it dies pretty easily. Does not put a lot of pressure on the board, unfortunately, because it's a 4 mana 2/1, right? The Death Rattle Clause it's really good, but the fact that it remains is that when you play this, your opponent gets to decide what kind of happens to it, right? So you play this, your opponent's gonna either kill this and then play minions, or they're gonna just ping it off because it literally has 1 health. So this would not see play in the more traditional aggro hunters or mid-range hunters, right? So this will only see play in control hunters because that's really the only deck that can make use of this. And if you're playing control hunter, then can I introduce you to some better classes such as control priest, control paladin, you know, control warrior? These are just better. They're a better choice than this. So not really. I think the main reason that this card will see play is from random effects. So Druid Macaw might actually draw this because it's a new beast, right? But outside of that, I don't think you're gonna actually want this in your deck. So let's give this Exploding Bloatbat a 1-star. Corpse Widow, 5 mana 4/6 beast, so pretty good statted with your Death Rattle cards cost 2 less. Now, these cards are very, very scary, right? Any cards that reduce mana costs, either on themselves or other cards, are very, very dangerous, right? The best example I can give is Mech Warper, where Mech Warper is actually format divining, right? Because it reduced itself as well. You can actually play so many cards at once, and it becomes crazy. Corpse Widow, it's kind of like a Mech Warper too, in the fact that the stat line is really high, and then you can just basically dump out all your Death Rattle cards and then proceed to go face and play more steady shots because, you know, you spent less mana using your cards, right? And it's also a beast for some odd reason. I mean, it's freaking, it's like a freaking skeleton thing. That's not a beast, but apparently it is. So yeah, the only downside to this is that it is 5 mana. You know, usually you want your cost less reductions to be a bit cheaper. But I can see something insane like, for example, Corpse Widow at turn 5, and then turn 6, you can play something like Infested Wolf plus Savannah Highmane, which is a 10 mana play that you normally can't do at 6 mana, right? And you also play a 5 mana 4/6. So overall, this would be a good card, you know, like mana reduction, works in the Death Rattle Hunter deck. So let's go ahead and give this a 3 stars. You would want to consider this in your decks. Toxic Arrow, it's an epic card, 2 mana with deal 2 damage to a minion. If it survives, give it poisonous. Huh, what a weird card. So basically, it's 2 mana, deal 2 damage to something, to an enemy, I guess, to kill it. Or you want to Toxic Arrow your own minions, right? And then if it survives, you can use this poisonous effect to kill something else. So you want to Toxic Arrow your own 2/3 and then kill like a Spike Rush Steed minion with this. Right, something like that. Okay, this seems really bad in multiple accounts, right? So first of all, it's 2 mana deal 2 to a minion, so that's already really bad, right? And secondly, if you're doing the cute poisonous thing, you're actually 2-for-1ing yourself, right? You're actually shooting a minion you have that has 3 or more health, right? And then you're trading it off of something else. So you're killing your own minion, you're spending a card to kill off your opponent's minion. So I think overall, these are 2 effects that are really weak, but at least you get the choose one effect, right? Because this is kind of like a choose one. You either do the first one or the second one. But hunters don't want to be versatile. Hunters want to be very powerful in one specific category, right? Because it's Steady Shot. Steady Shot doesn't say deal 2 damage or heal 2, right? It just says sport 2. So I think this is actually unplayable. I'm going to give this 0 stars. I don't think you want to actually put this in any of your decks. Next, we have the Abominable Woman, 7 mana 6/7 with Death Rattle. Summon a random friendly beast that died this game. Okay, so the dream would be what? You play this after Highmane, and then you trade this off, and then you get another Highmane. It's a 7 mana 6/7, which is a pretty formidable body, right? It is pretty big. But at the end of the day, it's a 7 mana card, right? For 7 mana, you could be doing something like play a secret, play Eagle Horn Bow, and then play Steady Shot. Wouldn't that just be better at turn 7 because you're trying to kill your opponent anyways? This is like a big value card, I think. And also, there's also another very awkward situation where if you're playing like a mid-range hunter, which I believe this is the card you want to put in, right? Something like mid-range hunter and whatnot. You're gonna be playing cards like Druid McCall, right? And then you're also gonna be playing cards like Unleash the Hounds. It would suck if you get a 6/7 Death Rattle and it's just Death Rattles into 1/1, right? Like that is not value at all. So yeah, I think this would be like a fringe playable. I don't even think this is actually that good. It's just 7 mana. It's so expensive. I'm gonna give this 1 star. I mean, it's still a playable card, but yeah, not really a big fan of this. Next, we have the Hunter Legendary Professor Putricide. 4 mana, 5/4. With after you play a secret, you get another random Hunter secret into the battlefield. So basically, it does not play the same secret that you played. It gets a random one, and it can get anyone, right? It can get something like Snipe, Misdirection, all those weird stuff as well. It'd be pretty cool if you can play this with the Cloaked Huntress, right? All your secrets cost 0, but then at the same time, you do need to combo this with Cloaked Huntress. So Cloaked Huntress needs to survive, and then you can play this, or you can play this all in turn 7, right? You can Cloaked Huntress, play Putricide, play a lot of secrets, and hopefully that makes it work out, right? Unfortunately, Hunter secrets are not that powerful, okay? Like at the end of the day, you just don't want that many random Hunter secrets, right? So say you're playing Putricide, how many secrets are you gonna play in your Hunter deck, right? Every secret you play in your deck, it's gonna make the deck a bit worse. Plus, if you're playing the good secrets already, Putricide is gonna put the bad secrets, right? It's only obvious, right? And then you can also cuck yourself here, because if you have Explosive Trap and Freezing Trap, okay? You play Explosive Trap and then Putricide puts in Freezing Trap, then like, what face, man? I think there's a lot of situations where this is gonna be bad. And at the end of the day, it's also secrets. Like, it's good against noobs because noobs don't know how to play against secrets. Against a good player, they're gonna play around all your secrets. And Hunter secrets are very one-dimensional, right? It's either hit your face or hit a minion. There's not really much other choices, right? So combining all these things, I think Putricide is actually just a bad card. I don't think you want to play this. I'm gonna give this 1 star. It's a legendary that you're gonna see, you're gonna try, you're gonna forget about it. Alright, and finally, we have the Death Knight card for for Hunter. It is Deathstalker Rexar for 6 mana. 6 mana, Battlecry, deal 2 damage to all minions. You gain 5 armor, and then you change your hero power into Build a Beast, which is craft a custom zombie. So what happens is 2 random beasts comes up, okay? So 1 beast has a keyword, so something like, you know, Taunt or Wind Fury or something like that. And then the second option is something with text. So something like Rat Pack, Infested Wolf, Savannah Highmane, or whatever, right? And then you just combine all their mana costs and health and attack together to make a Zombeast. Yeah? So it's basically draw a card. Draw a pretty beastly card. So, I actually think that this card is pretty good in a more grindy matchup, right? If you're going to be drawing a card every single time from the hero power, you're going to outvalue your opponent, because this card is actually a good card. You're actually combining 2 discover effects, and you're going to get a good creature. And if your opponent can't kill you, right? If they're forced to trade the zombies and play the board game, you're gonna win in the long run, because you're gonna build a zombies every single turn. As the card itself, it also does something very relevant, right? It gains you 5 armor and deals 2 damage to all enemy minions. Kind of reminds me of like a Holy Nova or something like that. You know, a Holy Nova-ish kind of card. So, yeah, I think the Stalker Rexar could see play in mid-range hunters in a more grindy matchup. So I would give this a 3 star. I think the only bad thing is that you lose Steady Shot. So there are a lot of matches where you don't want to lose that hero power, but there's also a lot of matches where you just want to outvalue your opponent. So yeah, 3-star card. All right. Oh my god. Okay, let's take a little break here. Let's just drink some water. What do you guys think about Druid and Hunter? Okay, I think the Druid got a few good cards. Hunter didn't really get too many good cards, I think. Yeah. Let's say thank you so much to some subs there. We got Luxao, Dr. Hentai, and Nemoculus for the 33 months of Nemoculus. Thank you very much. 33 months of Scavaz, can't believe it. Thank you very much, Nemoculus. Alright. Okay, let's keep on going. Alright, let's keep on going. Now, next we have some mage cards. The first mage card is Breath of Sindragosa. For 1 mana, you get to deal 2 damage to a random enemy minion and freeze it. This reminds me of Flame Cannon, where Flame Cannon was insane in terms of tempo, right? It's a 2 mana deal 4. This is more, you know, fairly static in the damage side. It's a 1 mana deal 2. Reminds me of Arcane Blast. But the thing is, it freezes the minion, okay? That is actually pretty nuts. Like, freezing an enemy minion is a thing. It's like a cheaper Frostbolt in that case. It's a Frostbolt that can't go phase, but it's also a Frostbolt that can hit stealth minions. I think this card is actually really good. Very versatile. It's also very strong against aggro. And as a mage, you can also kind of weave a board position for this to deal 2 damage, right? Because you have the hero power, you have arcane missiles, you have a lot of good minions. So I think Breath of Sindragosa is actually a really good card. I'm gonna give this a 4 stars. 4-star removal card. Cold Wraith is a 3 mana 3/4 minion with Battlecry. If an enemy is frozen, draw a card. I think this card is actually pretty nuts, because like literally you're playing a minion with fair stats, right? 3 mana 3/4 is actually really insane. It trades really well. It kills any 2-drop. Whatever 2-drop it is, it just kills. It trades effectively. And it has an effect that is super relevant. If you're going to be playing stuff like Breath of Sindragosa, Frostbolt, and whatnot, and even Water Elemental, right? It says if an enemy is frozen. So that counts your opponent's face. You get to draw a card. And drawing a card is insane, okay? 3 mana 3/4 draw a card would be like a 5 mana card, like Azuric, right? So it's like that kind of power level. And even if you don't draw a card, playing a 3 mana 3/4 is not the end of the world. So I'm gonna rate this pretty highly. I'm gonna give this 4 stars. I think this card is gonna see play and it's pretty good. Frozen Clone is the new Mage secret. 3 mana Mage secret, of course. Oops. After your opponent plays a minion, add 2 copies of it into your hand. So it's very similar to Mirror Entity and Potion of Polymorph, where it activates off your opponent's minions, right? And you also get 2. So it's a lot of value. It's kind of like an Arcane Intellect, but in secret form, right? So it's another secret that you can add to in like your Arcanologist, your Kirin Tor Mage, and stuff like that, you know, kind of secret mage. The only problem with this is that this effect does not combo with anything Mage has, right? So you're getting your opponent's minions. And sometimes your opponent minions are kind of minions that you don't want, right? Sometimes you're playing against Pirate Warrior, then why the heck are you playing the secret? Sometimes you're playing against Hunter, and you know, while it's really cool to have 2 high mains, you're dying, okay? You spent 3 mana drawing 2 high mains, and that sometimes is not good enough against Hunter, right? So there are a lot of situations where this is just not good. It also does not combo well with the Mage quest, Open the Waygate, because it draws you minions, and if you're playing Mage, why would you kind of want more minions? The only way I can see this working out is if you can use this on something that has a lot of value, such as Battlecry, discover a minion, Battlecry, draw a card, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, naturally it's not going to happen too much in Constructed Priest. People has good game plans. Like, if you copy a Jade Golem producer, it's not going to work out well for you. So I'm going to rate this a 1 star. I don't think it's good enough. Ice Walker is a 2 mana 1/3 elemental with your hero power also freezes the target. So your hero power gets upgraded whenever Ice Walker is on the field. So this could get actually really annoying. This reminds me of like some Magic cards that's like pay 2 mana and then your opponent's minions can attack, right? It's kind of like a weird Icy Manipulator, if you may, right? This can be very annoying against some certain decks, right? Because you're effectively prisoning a 1 card forever, and you're also getting to choose the best minion out of any situation, right? You can freeze like a 5/5, and late game you can freeze a dragon, right? Or something insane. So it is pretty relevant. The only downside is a 2 mana 1/3. 2 mana 1/3s are very fragile, are actually pretty damn bad. Like 1/3s are not what you want out of 2-drops, right? Even control decks don't want 2 mana 1/3s because it doesn't trade well with anything. I think it's, you know, it's in that spot where the power is really powerful, but the stat line is really, really bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this 3 stars. I think this has a lot of potential because, you know, freezing a target is really, really good, right? I can imagine this being really good against Pirate Warrior too, because you just freeze your opponent's face, alright? So, yeah, but the stat line is kind of like not making this any higher than the 3 star. Next we have Doomed Apprentice. For 3 mana 3/2, you get a more ugly Sorcerer's Apprentice with another effect. Your opponent's spells cost 1 more. So it's kind of like a Lothab in a sense, where you're kind of messing up your opponent's spells. But I feel like this card is really bad because there are some matchups where this is just bad. This is actually just useless. Against Pirate Warrior, it's useless. Against Token Druid, it's pretty much useless. Because, like, what? They still Mark the Lotus for 2. They still Part of the War for 3. They still Savage Roar for 4 and whatnot. And you're freaking playing a 3 mana 3/2. So I think this is actually unplayable. So 0 stars. I think this is actually unplayable. Sure, you can go like, oh, well, this is really good against combo decks, like Miracle Rogue or something like that, right? Well, you know what? They can actually just kill this and do the Miracle turn next turn, okay? So no, this card is actually just bad. 0 stars. Alright, next we have Ghastly Conjurer. 4 mana 2/6 with Battle Cry. Add a Mirror Image spell to your hand. Now, this is exactly what Control Mages wants, okay? Like, it is so annoying. I can already imagine this being so annoying to deal with. It's a 4 mana 2/6. Summon 2/0/2 Mirror Images. So it's like a 4 mana 2/10. Split across 3 bodies with 2 taunt minions. And then you don't even need to do that, right? The Mirror Image can activate so many things that you draw, right? The Mirror Image can activate Antonidas. It can activate Open the Way Gates. It can activate from Sorcerer's Apprentice, right? It can actually make it 0. So there's a lot of good things about this minion. 2/6 is also, you know, it's really fat, right? It's a big butt. So if your opponent is playing something like, you know, more of a removal package, more of a mid-range removal package, it's going to be very, very difficult to kill a 6 health minion. So I have very high hopes for this card. It activates so many things in Mage. Gonna give this 4 stars. Simulacrum is the 3 mana Mage spell that Blizzard forget to word properly. It says copy the lowest cost minion in your hand. I can imagine a lot of people being super confused, but basically it's put a copy of the lowest cost minion in your hand. Keep in mind that you do not get to actually target, because I mean you can't target spells in your hand, right? So if you have, like, for example, a Sorcerer's Apprentice and the new Ice Walker, you actually get a random minion, right? You get randomly stuff. So where is this card good? Well, this card is good in Exodia Mage, right? Because obviously if you have multiple Sorcerer's Apprentice, it makes the combo a little bit more consistent, right? More copies of the same card is really good. You can also use this with only 1 card left in your hand and get value from that. So for example, if Medivh the Guardian is the last card in your hand, well, it's a 3 mana, draw a Medivh the Guardian, which is not bad. However, the floor of this card is really, really bad, okay? The floor of this card is really bad. Because it's 3 mana, draw 1 card. Okay, you do not want 3 mana, draw a card. You want to actually, maybe you want to play Arcane Intellect instead, because Arcane Intellect is draw 2 cards, you thin your deck, you actually get to find your powerful cards later on, instead of duplicating your own hand. And because you're already getting a card that it's already in your hand, it gives you less options, right? So this is only going to be seen in combo decks and nowhere else. So in that case, I'm gonna give this a 2 star, because that is the definition of combo decks, right? Fringe cards that will make one specific deck. Glacial Mysteries. Guys, I'm not bad, it's just inactive, okay? God damn it. Glacial Mysteries is none of your business. For 8 mana, you get to put 1 of each secret from your deck into the battlefield. So not as good as Mysterious Champion, obviously, because Mysterious Champion, you actually get a 6 mana 6/6. For Glacial Mysteries, is an 8 mana 0/0. But you actually get to get Mage Secrets. So, you know, Mage Secrets cost 3. You can actually put 5 of them into it, and it's going to be pretty insane. But my question is, how good would this be? Because first of all, it's very demanding in deck building. When you put Glacial Mysteries in your deck, you better be putting a lot of secrets in your deck, right? Because otherwise it's not going to be that good. And then what if you draw them in the reverse order? What if you draw all your secrets and then Glacial Mysteries? Heck, even worse, what if you actually draw your mage secrets? You never want to draw your mage secrets, right? You want to get them for archaeologists. That's partly why the math scientists are so good, because you actually don't get to cast them. So casting mage secrets is actually terrible. So I think this is going to be really heavy in terms of the reward, because the reward is not even that good. I mean, what, you put Mirror Entity, Counterspell, some duplicate effects and whatnot, like Value Secret Mage and stuff like that. I don't think it's gonna work out. I think this is gonna just be a disappointment, if anything. So I'm gonna give this 1 star. Next we have the Mage Legendary. It's called Syndragosa. Oh, baby. It's 8 mana, 8/8 dragon. With Battlecry, summon 2 0/1 frozen champions. The champions have an effect. Champions, when they die, you get to get a legendary minion into your hand, which is pretty PogChamp. So it's effectively an 8 mana 8/8, draw 2 legendary cards, but you kind of have to work a bit to kill your own 0/1s. Obviously, there are some cases where you can actually cheat them out. So for example, you can play Syndragosa, and then you can play Volcanic Potion, you get the 2 legendaries immediately. There is some, kind of inception where Syndragosa can actually spawn a frozen champion, and the frozen champion can put a Syndragosa, and then you can do that all over again and do infinite Syndragosa, because Syndragosa is a legendary. So there's that. I think it's a solid win condition for mid-range mages, because there is a lot of value in this card. And you play 8 mana 8/8, and then at worst you can ping this off to get a legendary. So it's like 8 mana 8/8, draw 2 cards, but you have to spend 4 more mana to draw those 2 cards if you're not using the frozen champions properly, right? Yeah, I think this card is just fine. I mean, drawing 2 cards off of a legendary and have an 8/8 body is really, really good. And the fact that mages tend to outvalue your opponent, and then you want to reload. Like, if your opponent stabilizes when you're playing Tempo Mage, you want to play Arcane Intellect, right? You want to play Cabal's Tome. You want to play cards that draw more cards. And Syndragosa does exactly that. So I will give this a 3 stars. This is something you want to consider when you play Tempo Mage. And finally, we have the Lich, not the Lich, but the Death Knight card for Mage. It's Frostlich Jaina with the cost 9 with Battlecry, summon a 3/6 Water Elemental. Your elementals have lifesteal this game, so it's a permanent effect. You get 5 armor, and you also improve your hero power to Icy Touch, which is same, deal 1 damage, right? Same thing. But if this kills a minion, you summon a water elemental. Wow, that is a lot of text. Let's try and break this down. So for 9 mana, you get a 3/6 water elemental, and you also get lifesteal on all your elementals. So on a board state where if you already have some elementals on the board, you actually get to restore a lot of health, right? You play Frostless Shada, you attack with some elementals, you get to restore some health because, it works immediately, right? So that's great. You get 5 armor, so you also stabilize quite well. And then your opponent is going to be freaking scared for their life for the rest of the game, because every minion they play, there is a chance that Icy Touch is going to be insane. I mean, look, a 2 mana hero power that summons a 3/6 water elemental that's lifesteal now, it's pretty ridiculous. So once Frostless Jaina resolves, your opponent literally cannot play any more minions, right? They're basically stuck. And there's a lot of cute combos with this card as well, because it says your elementals have lifesteal this game. One of the best combos you can do with this card is Baron Geddon, okay? So you play Frostless Jaina, and then Baron Geddon deals 2 damage to everything, and then all the damage restores health to you. Plus, it's also a 7/5, so it can also attack and gain you 7 health. So there are a lot of weird elemental synergies that you can do with Frostless Jaina. So, the combination of all these effects makes this pretty ridiculous. I think mainly it's because of the hero power that makes this card so strong, because your opponent is really going to be scared of playing minions for the rest of the game. You can actually, as a mage, Make it so that you can always activate this, right? You have cards that deal 2 damage. You have cards that deal 3 damage. You have cards that AoE them for 4 damage and meteors and stuff like that, right? So I don't foresee it being too hard to activate Icy Touch. So with all this being said, I think Frosted Shade is a 4-star card. I think you actually want to put this in, and there's just a lot of upside to making her work. Cool. Let's move onwards to Paladin. Paladin, we have the first card is Righteous Protector. It's a 1-mana 1/1 taunt with Divine Shield. So it's kind of like combining an Argent Squire but giving it taunt. I actually think this card is ridiculous. Like, this card is actually insane, right? And Noyotron was a 2-mana 1/2 taunt Divine Shield as a 1/2, and this is freaking 1 mana, right? Like, this is actually pretty ridiculous. It also messes up combat for your opponent really badly, because if you have a, if you have a minion that is really important to kill, such as, I don't know, like a Flappy Bird, right? And then you have this on the board, your opponent's gonna cry a lot. Yeah, so Righteous Protector is really, really good in that sense. It also has Taunt and Divine Shield, which is very relevant in the Paladin keyword deck that we're gonna see. We're gonna see why this is very relevant later on. There's a lot of cards that care about having a lot of keywords, right? But this is just like super solid. Like, Argent Squire is a card that sometimes Paladin wants to consider, and putting Taunt onto it is just making this much better. So I'm gonna give this a 4 stars. Something you really want to put into Paladin decks, and it's just gonna work out. You have buffs for it. You have, hand buffs for it. You can put in buffs on it. Lots of good stuff. Dark Conviction is a 2-mana spell card with set of minions attack and health to 3. So it's effectively a Keeper of Udamon that is a 2-mana 0/0 Keeper of Udamon, right? So it's like a pseudo removal / pseudo buff for your cards, a little bit, versatile in that sense, but you do not get the body for anything. This is a kind of weird one, because, as a removal spell, it kind of sucks. As a buff spell, it kind of sucks. And then it's also like 2 mana, so it's like a mixture of a lot of awkward effects for sure, right? The worst case scenario is you hero power and then play this on a 1/1. That is the worst case. So it's 4 mana 3/3. So that's not like the end of the world or anything. And you also get to pseudo remove something. Combine this with something like Rallying Blade, and then it becomes a removal spell. But other than that, I see this really, really difficult to make this work. There is a deck that I can foresee this being working. It's like the super aggressive 1-drop Paladin deck, where you play a lot of 1-drops like Argent Squire or the new 1-drop Righteous Protector, and then you make it a 3/3 or something like that. That could work. But as a removal spell, this kind of sucks. So I'm gonna give this a 2 stars. We have Chillblade Champion, 4 mana 3/2 charge and lifesteal. So lots of keywords again. And this is very comparable to Bash, where Bash was, gain 3 armor, deal 3 damage. This is actually a minion with charge and lifesteal. And there are many cases where when you play this card, you want to go face instead. Because if you trade with something, then effectively you're casting Bash for 4 mana, which is not that good. There are also alternate ways to abuse this effect, where you can actually buff this up with hand buffs. You can buff this up with stuff like Blessing of Kings or Spike Ridge Steed or anything, and it can get pretty insane, right? Because lifesteal is a good effect, and this is also the only lifesteal minion that Paladins have in their class cards. So if Paladins actually want to play with lifesteal, then this is going to be a card they want to put in. This is pretty ridiculous against some decks. I mean, against Pirate Warrior or some aggro hunter, they're just basically aggro cards. They have to kill this, and if they kill this, then it's going to be super awkward for them to kill you, because not only are they losing attack on this minion itself, because they have to devote they have to kill this with like a weapon or 2/3 or something like that, right? They're also giving you an extra point of health. So in a sense, Chillblade Champion can remove a minion and heal 6 for yourself, right? Kind of. And that's like the worst case. The best case, wow. Imagine if you put like a Spike Ridge Steed on this, and then you get like a what 5/8 charged lifesteal with the Spike Rich Steed. How do they kill you, right? Like there are just some situations where this card is just unbeatable, right, against some decks. So I think this is pretty good. You would want to consider this when you build a Paladin, especially control, right? Mid-range, you might even want to play this because it's actually good against other mid-range decks. There are a lot of cases where sometimes you're actually racing your opponent, such as like the Temple Mage matchup. So I would give this a 3 stars. Next, we have a Desperate Stand. For 2 mana, you get to have a worse Ancestral Spirit. What does it say? It gives a minion Death Rattle. Return this to life with 1 health. So it's kind of like a redemption that you put on a minion of your choice, and you apply a Death Rattle immediately. So yeah, not as good as Ancestral Spirit. And as we know that Ancestral Spirit did not really see a lot of play. There was only one Shaman deck that really played Ancestral Spirit. It was the one with the Earth Elementals. It was like called the Grinder Shaman or something like that. Something like that. But with a Paladin, maybe that can change because there might be some Paladin minions that are worth using this on, such as Tyrion. Divine Shield minions usually are good target for this. Some Death Rattle, something that actually has an effect like Ragnarok's Light Lord or something like that. But at the end of the day, it just doesn't match up, right? Cards that put an effect on a minion and has to wait a turn before it activates it tend to not stand up, right? It's kind of like playing a fringe playable. It's only good if you have a specific card, and then in that case, it's also not that insane, right? So yeah, I'm not pretty big on this card. I'm just gonna give this 1 star. Yeah, it does not combo Vorax, my friend. Alright, next up we have Howling Commander, 3 mana 2/2. Battlecry, draw a Divine Shield minion from your deck. So there's a new kind of like, there's a lot of 3 mana 2/2s that draw a card now, and the Paladin, this one kind of, fits the bill as well. You actually get to draw a specific minion, which is kind of cute, because if your deck only has like Tyrion and like something like Wicker Flame or something like that, then, drawing Tyrion on command is pretty good. Alright, it's kind of like a tutor effect, where tutor means that you draw a specific type of card, and those effects are always pretty good. Do Paladins actually need this? Well, it's a 3 mana 2/2, so the stat line is actually pretty abysmal, right? It does draw your card, but in a sense, sometimes like, how do you say it? Sometimes Out of My Jungle might just be better, because Stone of Defender actually gets you the versatility of drawing like Tarim, Wicker Flame, Tyrion. Sometimes you just want like a Bog Creeper or something like that, or sometimes you need something cheap like a Shield Bearer to stay alive. Howling Commander does not exactly do that. And then Divine Shield minions, while they are good, right, there are also a lot of bad ones, so then you really only have some limited choices. So I'm pretty off this card. I don't think this is that strong. I'm just gonna give this 2 stars. Next we have Arrogant Crusader, 4 mana 5/2. Death Rattle, if it's your opponent's turn, summon a 2/2 ghoul. So it's kind of, it really reminds me of Pilot Shredder, right? 4 mana 4/3 with Death Rattle, summon basically a 2/3. This goes face really well, right? This can go face really hard. It's 5 damage. And then you obviously never want to trade with this, because if you trade with this, you don't get the 2/2. But sometimes you need to. I think this card is overall, it's actually not bad, because as a 4 mana 5/2, trading a Yeti, for example, like let's just give an example, like trading a Senjin, right? It's not that bad. It's a 4-drop trading for a 4-drop, right? So that's not bad. And the best case is that you just keep on going face, and then your opponent can't take it anymore, and they have to kill this, and you get a 2/2 in return. So yeah, it's okay. The only problem with this, I guess, would be that well, it's a 4-drop, right? It's pretty hard to slot the 4-drop slot into a Paladin, where they already have True Silver Champions, they have a variety of buff cards that they want, so it might get a little bit heavy on that side. because there are a lot of times where you actually just want to play Consecration at 4 and you just want to play True Silver at 4, right? So that's a lot of 4 drops. And yeah, the effect is not that insane. I mean, it's okay. It does remind me of a Shredder. So yeah, I could see it get played. So, but then the 4 drop slot is just so filled anyways. So we're just gonna go ahead and give this a 2 stars. Actually, no. We're gonna give this a 3 stars. Yeah, let's just give this a 3 stars. It's just that there are so many other 4 drops in Paladin that are better than a 3-star card. Light's Sorrel is a new weapon, 4 mana, 1/4 weapon, so lots of durability. With after a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain +1 attack. So if you have a lot of Divine Shields, then this can get really big, and if this gets really big, then you can smork a lot. But let's go ahead and evaluate this, right? How many Divine Shields would you need to be happy with this? Well, just 1, right? Because a 4 mana 2/4 weapon is kind of like the default, right? If you're having a 4 mana 3/4 weapon, then it's kind of like Assassin's Blade, which is also kind of default because Assassin's Blade should really cost 4 mana, right? 5 mana Assassin's Blade is fair, but it's not powerful. So you really need to lose 2 Divine Shields, which is actually pretty difficult to do. And couple the fact that it is also another 4 drop, as we mentioned, it's gonna be pretty hard to utilize this, right? True Silver Champion is just better. It gives you heal, it has 4 attack, it's very versatile, it can go face. I don't think Light's Sword is going to especially make the cut. So let's go ahead and give this a 1 star. Blackguard is a 6 mana 3/9. Wow, that's a very interesting stat line. Lots of health. Whenever your hero is healed, deal that much damage to a random friendly. So what does this combo with? So this combos with True Silver Champion, obviously. That's like the first thing that comes out. You can, for example, have Blackguard, True Silver Champion heals you for 2, Blackguard smart something for 2, and then you can spike something for 2, right? For 4, right? For True Silver, so that's pretty good. One big problem of this card is that if you use it with True Silver, Blackguard can actually hit the card that you're True Silvering, right? So, for example, if your opponent has 2 4/4s on the field, and you True Silver one of those, Blackguard could actually target the one you're trying to kill, and then this does not actually have an effect. Coupled with the fact that it's actually a 6 mana 3/9, which is actually a stat line that plays a little bit more defensive. I don't think this card is gonna make it. Like, there's just not enough healing, right? Sure, you can play like Guardian of Kings, right, and lay on hands, and then Blackguard can actually become a removal spell. But other than that, I don't think there's a lot of targets for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and rate this as 2 stars. I don't think this is gonna get there. I mean, having Blackguard and lay on hands seems pretty awesome, but at the same time, you can do without, right? This could have been something else. This could have just been like another 6 drop like Cairn, and you'd be happy with that too. Oh, lifesteal. Oh, I guess that's an interesting. Oh, that's actually an interesting way. Okay, so Blackguard has an interesting interaction because it does combo with lifesteal. So if you have, you know, the new card. So if you have the new card Chillblade Champion with charge and lifesteal, you can actually you know, play Blackguard and then charge and lifesteal, and then you restore health to yourself and then smart something for 3. So that does make it a little bit better. But I guess even with lifesteal, the fact still stands that actually no, because there's another lifesteal card. Okay. One second. Chat might be onto something here. Okay. Okay, interesting. Okay. So this does have an interesting interaction with lifesteal, right? Blackguard, because you can actually have lifesteal minions like Wicker Flame, like you know, the new Chillblade Champion, and also the new Death Knight Paladin, which we will get to, that also has lifesteal. This could actually start to remove a lot of minions, that's for sure. I guess at the end of the day, it's still not as good as a 6 mana combo card, and the stat line is not exactly something I'm happy with. I guess 9 health is really hard to remove, so that if you are playing this combo of heals and stuff like that, it is going to go off because your opponent most likely cannot kill this. So yeah, I'll give this a 3 stars. I'll give this 3 stars. I guess this is potential with all these lifesteal effects and also Ivory Knight. Yeah. All right, let's go on. Oh, that was interesting. Good job, chat. Chat is right. Alright, next we have the 5 mana 1/7 Bolvar Fireblood. Oh, Bolvar is back, and oh my god, look at him. He looks pretty good. Is he better this time? Well, he starts with Divine Shield, and it says after a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, this gets +2 attack. So it's a 5 mana 1/1 effectively, right? That death rattles into a 5 mana 3/7, and then if you get to lose any more Divine Shields, it can get bigger. A 5 mana minion that's 7 health is pretty big, right? Nesting Rock is a very big card. It's not really played in Constructed because it just doesn't do anything. But then Bolvar also has Divine Shield. So if you actually get to buff Bolvar up with something like a Silver Moon Portal or something, right? It becomes a 3/9 Divine Shield. It kills something and it becomes a 5/9. Like, this could actually snowball pretty well. But if you don't actually get to combo with this, so if you don't have any other Divine Shield minions, which is very possible because, you don't really have that many cards, right? And you just play this as itself, as a 1/1 the Death Rattles and a 3/7. I think that's actually still fine. It's not like it's bad, right? It has a very big butt. And then it can actually grow big. So, yeah, I think Bolvar is okay. You put Spiker Steed on it and it's... like, it becomes really annoying, but at the same time, you are playing Constructed. People are going to remove it, so you can't really bank on that. There are some decks that lose to this too, though, right? If you play this against Pirate Warrior and you put Spiker Steed on it, that's pretty insane. But that's also the same as just playing Spiker Steed on any 5-drop, right? So yeah, I guess the final verdict is that Bolvar is not going to be too good. I'm gonna give this 1 star. I want to give this 2 stars, but I really don't think it's going to be that good. I think it's just going to be a throwaway card. Yeah, I'll just give it 1 star. Pretty confident in doing that. Okay. Alright, now we are on to the Death Knight card for Paladin, which is a 9 mana card called Uther of the Ebon Blade. It has Battle Cry. Equip a 5/3 lifesteal weapon. Wow. So it's like a super true silver champion, right? Or a super Ashbringer, however you want to put it. You also gain 5 armor, as with all the hero cards. And you also get to change your hero power to the 4 horsemen, which is summon a 2/2 horseman. So instead of a 1/1, you get a 2/2. And if you have all 4 horsemen, so if you activate this hero power 4 times, you get to destroy the enemy hero. So you get to Exodia them. You actually get to win the game. Yada! Force them to concede. Kaboom! Wow, very flashy effect. So let's go ahead and break this down, I guess. I think this card is really good. Like, let's just get this over with. I think this card is insane. Why? Because the first 2 effects is 9 mana already, okay? Like, if Uther the Ebon Blade literally just says, Battle Cry, equip a 5/3 lifesteal weapon, gain 5 armor. Like, I would play that already, right? As a 5/3 lifesteal weapon, that effectively kills something and gains you 5 life, and you also get 5 armor already. Like, that's already pretty powerful as a weapon, right? It's great stabilization. You can also go face of it and heal yourself for 10. And then you still have a 5/2 weapon. So effectively, this is deal 15 damage, gain 20 life. Isn't that ridiculous? That is pretty ridiculous to me. And you also get to kill minions. It's not like weapons only go face, right? So, like, this card is already insane. And then I think the hero power is also super relevant. A lot of people think this hero power kind of sucks. It's like, oh yeah, hardy ho. Your opponent's gonna give you so much time to assemble 4 horsemen. It's impossible. Oh my god. Dreams come true, whatever, right? My evaluation of this card is that these 2/2s are kind of like cards that you have to deal with, right? Like, you can't just not kill them, because if they have 4, you actually do get to win, right? And they're freaking 2/2s. It's not like, it's not like you're making 1/1 horseman, okay? If you have making 1/1 horseman, then you're not actually upgrading the stat of your hero power. 2/2s are double the power of a 1/1. Last time I checked, right? Like, 2 is double of 1. So I think this hero power is also really good. So I think overall, this would be just a lot of great effects combined into one. Like I said, like the first part of this, I think it's already insane. And then you actually get the horseman, and the horseman do something spectacular. So against control decks, they actually have to find a way to deal with your pesky 2/2s. And if they do, you can just press it again. Yeah, I think this card is actually insane. So I would say that this is a 5-star card. I think you would want to play this in Paladin. And I think this card actively wants you to make a mid-range Paladin or control Paladin, right? Like, this card is actually insane. So yeah, pretty happy with this card. Let's go ahead with my favorite class. It is the Priest. Starting with the Shadow Ascendant. 2 mana 2/2 minion, okay? At the end of your turn, give another random friendly minion +1/+1. So, if you have another minion, this is technically a 2 mana 3/3 that your opponent must kill, because otherwise you just keep on getting, you can just keep on farming this +1/+1 buff. So the only question is, what can you do to make this work? Okay, so there's 2 ways. First way is you play a 1-drop and then you play this, obviously. 1-drops include Northshire Cleric. It includes the Oracle that draws a card, and that's literally it, right? So then, you know, buff it up and you'd be pretty happy, and your opponent has to kill this. Very, very nice. Another way to play this would be you play it later in the game. So something like turn 5. You play Shadow Ascendant, and then you Cabal Talon Priest it, and then you have 2/5 Ascendant, and then you have a 4/5 Talon Priest. So there's a lot of board, right? A lot of board stats for a 2-drop that seems pretty good. The only problem though is that this isn't Priest, right? This is really the only problem, because Priest doesn't really have a lot of aggressively statted minions outside of Talon Priest, I guess. And so yeah, it's looking really difficult to make use of this. Sure, it has a lot of stats, but you're probably going to be using these stats for defensive gameplay, right? You probably want to just, you know, trade your buffed minion, heal it back up, and try and buff it again, you know, just get it the value game, right? I don't really see an aggressive Priest happening with this card. Like, if this card was in Hunter, then oh my god, you just want to go face, right? But because this is a Priest, it's more like a value card, right? And your opponent does have to kill this, or the other minion, which does make it very awkward for your opponent's turn, and that's exactly what you want to do in Hearthstone. You want to mess up your opponent's game plan. So overall, I think Shadow Ascendant, because it's a Priest card, I can't rate it highly. So I'm going to give this 3 stars. If this is in any other class, I think it will be a higher rating, but I think in Priest this would be 3. Spirit Lash is a 2 mana Priest card with deal 1 damage to all minions, and it has lifesteal. So lifesteal, well, on this card is actually pretty interesting, because, you know, deal 1 damage to everybody, and then you gain 1 health for all damage dealt. But if you buff this up with spell power, you actually get to lifesteal a lot. Say Thanos, and then you play Spirit Lash. You deal 2 to everything, and then you restore all the 2s that you dealt. So it's pretty interesting. There are some cases which are really good. There are some matchups that this card is going to be very, very good against. So something like the Hunter deck with a lot of, you know, 2/1s and whatnot. You play this against Pirate Warrior, you get to restore a lot of health. If Zoo becomes popular, then, you know, deal 1 damage to all minions. This kind of makes sense. But my only problem with this card is that it's only good against aggro, right? Against mid-range and control, deal 1 damage to all minions is not something Priest wants, right? Like, it's like a whirlwind effect. But you're playing in a class that doesn't really have executes or things that can actually, you know, get value from dealing 1 damage to all minions. So yeah, it makes it a bit awkward. Another combo that you can do with this card is probably the, you know, Cleric Circle combo. So you can, like, Northshire Cleric, Spirit Lash, kind of like make a Pyromancer kind of play, and then you can Circle of Healing, draw a lot of cards and whatnot, right? But I think the main use of this would be to use it with Blood Mage Thanos or any spell power effects, so that you can restore a lot of health and actually get to deal 2 damage to all minions, because deal 1 damage is not really that good. So yeah, overall, I think this is just going to be a 3-star card. I want this card to be good, but I think this card is actually dead in a lot of matchups. Acolyte of Agony! 3 mana, 3/3 lifesteal, okay? It seems pretty normal, but I don't think people can actually just shrug this card off. it looks pretty normal. It doesn't look like anything exciting, but lifesteal as a mechanic is very, very good, right? Because your opponent kind of has to deal with this if their, game plan is to try and smoke you down, and then, they divert damage to this, and then they don't diverge damage to your face, and then you get heal anyways, right? I guess a more concrete example would be like, okay, say you're playing against a pirate warrior, right? And then you play Acolyte of Agony, and then they go like, okay, every turn I don't kill this, you're gonna be gaining 3 health, so I have to kill this. So they play Fire War Axe, they kill this. Not only did they spend 3 damage on your Acolyte, you also got to heal 3. And that's the worst case, right? Obviously, the worst case is your Acolyte dies to a weapon. If it actually gets the trait for a minion, then you're actually getting a lot of value. So yeah, I think Acolyte of Agony is fine. I think it's gonna be 3 stars. If you buff this up with Power Shield or Talon Priest or something like that, then it's gonna be pretty powerful. Eternal Servitude. I was supposed to reveal this card, but then there was a scheduling problem with Blizzard because I had to go to the Magic Pro Tour and whatnot. But when I saw this card in my reveal packet, I was so excited. This card is nuts, okay? For 4 mana, you get to discover a friendly minion that died this game. A friendly minion, so it only counts your minions, right? And you summon it. Okay, sure. Why is this card nuts? Because it enables so many freaking combos, okay? The best 2 targets for Eternal Servitude are Lyra and Valen, okay? So let's talk about Lyra first, right? Lyra, usually what happens is you play 2 Radiant Elementals, you play Lyra, and then you get to go crazy, right? You probably saw some of my videos where it's like Miracle Priest. I just cast a million spells in 1 turn, right? Because double Radiant with Lyra is insane. Okay, what if I tell you that you can actually play Lyra on an empty board, force your opponent to kill it because they have to freaking kill Lyra, and then you play 2 Radiants, play Eternal Servitude for 2, get the Lyra, and actually get like 4 remaining mana to do whatever the heck you want with Lyra. Oh, how about play the second Eternal Servitude and get 2 Lyras, and then you draw 2 cards with 2 Radiant Elementals with like freaking reduction, and every card you play you draw 2 cards? Like, that is insane. Okay, so that's insane, right? What if you put it on Valen? What if you play Valen, your opponent kills it, and then you Eternal Servitude Valen twice, and then you Mind Blast for 20 damage, and then you Smite for 8 damage, and then you Holy Nova for God knows how much damage, right? Like, that is actually nuts. Like, this card is ridiculous. This card is ridiculous mainly because of Radiant Elemental, because you can make this 2 mana, right? You can even make this 1 mana if you Eternal Servitude a freaking Radiant Elemental. Like, I don't know how it's gonna work, but this card is what makes me really want to play Priest. Like, the combo potential is out of this world. So, this is a 5-star card. Very, very good Priest card. Alright, next we have Devour Mind. For 5 mana, you get to copy 3 cards in your opponent's deck and add them to your hand. So, literally a bigger Thought Steal, right? So, it's Thought Steal for 5, and you get the Thought Steal for 1 more card. Lots of value to be gained, but also a pretty damn bad card against some matchups, right? It's pretty much playing like a Nourish or playing a Kabbalist Tome. It's really, really bad against some certain matchups where you are not going to have enough time to play a 5, draw 3, right? You just don't have enough time to do that. And if you're playing against aggro, it's even worse because you're drawing aggro cards. You're not drawing like board clears and stabilization. So yeah, there are just cards that are just bad. If the meta ever becomes like mid-range and control, which, like, it could happen because lifesteal could actually make aggro decks extinct. There is a chance. There is a very, very small chance because aggro is always insane, right? But lifesteal is a good mechanic against aggro, right? But if there ever exists a meta where, mid-range paladins, and then there will be like quest warriors and whatnot, right? Then Devour Mind can become very, very good because it's like literally a bigger Thought Steal, right? So let's keep this in mind for Control Priest, and let's give this a 3 stars. Shadow Essence is a very cute card, I guess. Summon a 5/5 copy of a random minion in your deck. So it really rewards deck building. If you are building a deck with, cards that do something at the end of the turn. So for example, like the new Lich King, Zera, you know, stuff that activates at the end of the turn. Something even like the 2-drop, right? The Shadow Ascendants, you know, that's a card that, you know, you wouldn't mind getting a 5/5 copy of. Then you'd be pretty happy with it. The problem is that you don't actually get to choose, right? Now, most of these effects are like discover and summon a copy, right? This is actually a pure random thing. So, yeah, that would make it a little bit more awkward. Sure, you can put it under like a lifesteal minion. Sure, you can put it on anything. And 6 mana 5/5 is normally just okay. I think there are better options out there. And yeah, the fact that it is random and you don't get a choice makes it a little bit subpar, and I don't really want to put this in my decks. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this 1 star. Embrace Darkness. It's a 6 mana card with choose an enemy minion. At the start of your turn, gain control of it. So you put a debuff on it, and then at the start of turn, you get to mind control it for 6 mana. So yeah, would you actually want to play a cheaper mind control for a little bit of awkwardness, right? Because well, it is really awkward. Your opponent either gets to trade off the minion that you choose to embrace darkness, or they get to play around it because they know you're gonna freaking get it. There's another bad thing about this card is that embrace darkness, when you get the minion on your turn, it still has the summoning sickness, right? It still cannot attack. So yeah, all these combined makes for a very awkward card, right? You're choosing a minion, you have to wait a turn, your opponent has to not interact with it at all, and then you get it, and then you can't attack with it. So yeah, it doesn't feel like it's that good, and it's also a very dead card against some matchups, right? Like you literally only want to play this on like a Spiker Steed or something. So yeah, overall I think this card is going to be below par. I think it's going to be a 1-star card. Obsidian Statue is a 9 mana 4/8 taunt, lifesteal, death rattles. Destroy a random enemy minion. That is a lot of good text on a minion that's a little bit, you know, statted below the curve, but that's still a big butt. It's a 4/8, right? It actually holds the door pretty well. Having lifesteal actually makes this card really, really good because it actually does stabilize the board. The Death Rattle with destroy a random enemy minion is nothing to shrug at either, because, well, if you're playing a deck that is consisting of mid-range, mid-range minions, then destroying a random enemy minion is actually pretty good. The only bad thing is that it's 9 mana, right? So you just have to cheat this out to something, like, you know, maybe you can consider the Shadow Essence that we looked at earlier on. Yeah, probably not. Shadow Essence is still pretty bad. I think this is actually fine as like a control stabilizer. The fact that it's lifesteal means that when you play this, you are going to live unless you play against something like Rogue, where they can sap it or something, right? Yeah, it just actually loses to hard removal. But even then, you still get to destroy a random enemy minion. So if your opponent has something, then, you know, it's gonna work out. So I have a little bit of hope for Obsidian Statue. It's kind of like another mind control variant, where it's like a high cost minion that, you know, you use to stabilize the board. So I'm gonna give this 4 stars. I'm actually pretty happy with everything this card offers. It's also interesting to note that you can actually get this free from Amber. So yeah, a little bit upside for Priest. Next we have Archbishop Benedictus, which is the Priest legendary for this set. 7 mana 4/6. You get to Battlecry. Shuffle a copy of your opponent's deck into your deck. Oh my god. So you actually get to have an insane amount of cards in your deck. Think of this as like a million gang ups. Yeah. And then imagine if you're playing against another deck with Archbishop Benedictus as well. So then you shuffle a copy of their Benedictus, and then they draw Benedictus, and then they play it, and then they Benedictus your Benedictus. Oh my god. Okay, I'm not even thinking about that. I don't think that ever is going to happen because this card is just bad. Okay, this card is just bad. How in the world would you actually want to play a card that is a 7 mana 4/6, does not give you card advantage, does not affect the board, does not give you value, does not give you tempo, right? Like, holy jeez, this card is bad, right? How is this card good? Okay, sure, you can say, okay, maybe there is combo potential. Well, the combo potential is actually abysmal because you're trying to do your priest things. Your opponent is trying to do their things, like Quest Rogue, for example, right? And now you shuffle 2 things together, okay? It's like you're not going to be happy, okay? But you are not going to be happy with 2 things meshed together, okay? It's like eating a hot dog and then eating a chocolate and then mashing both of them together. You do not want a hot dog with chocolate, okay? This does not make sense, okay? This is exactly what this old man does. It just mashes 2 things together that you like, but it becomes really bad. It's like meshing a tiramisu with soy sauce and wasabi. No, 0 stars. Do not want to play this. Do not want to open this in my packs. Get out of my face. Alright, and finally we have the Death Knight Legendary. The hero card for Priest. It's Shadow Reaper Anduin. It's 8 mana with Battlecry, destroy all minions with 5 or more attacks. So basically you mash Shadow Word Death, you gain 5 armor, and then you also change your hero part into Void form. It deals 2 damage, and after you play a card, you can play Void form again. There are some very cute combos you can do with this, okay? There are a lot of cute combos. So first of all, you can play Raza with Shadow Reaper Anduin and make Void form cost 0 because Raza actually persists through multiple or different changing hero powers, right? And Void form costs 0, that's actually pretty PogChamp because basically all your cards now deal 2 damage as a battle cry, right? Even spells, right? That becomes pretty cool if you can actually combo this with Raza. If you play a lot of cheap spells, then it's a little bit harder to make Void form work because, well, technically speaking, you do need to still pay 2 mana for it, right? So it gets a bit awkward. But the fact that you get to deal 2 damage to face is pretty nice. If we talk about the front side of the battle cry, it's a little bit awkward, right? It's really difficult to actually destroy all minions with 5 or more attack. It's the Mass Shadow Death, right? I just don't really feel like this is going to happen too often. And, you know, if you're remotely playing like Raza type material, your opponent's going to play around this. You're not going to be removing a lot of creatures with this. And, you know, Shadow Word Deathing 1 creature is not good enough, right, for this card. You actually need to Shadow Word 2 creatures for this to be worth 8 mana, in the front side at least. So, excluding the combo potential, this is going to be really hard to make work. And that's literally it. That's actually literally it. I think Shadow Reaper Anduin can only be played in the Raza Priest. I just don't really want to play this in any other deck because this effect is just so awkward. You can play this against Jade Druid, right? So then what? Your opponent just played more Jade Druids, right? So, like, it's not even that good when you wipe your opponent's board with a question mark, right? Because that's just the best case. The worst case is you play this and nothing happens because your opponent doesn't even have any of 5 attack or more minions, right? So yeah, overall I'm pretty down on this card except for the combo potential of Void form. And I think you can only do some cute stuff with Raza or like double Radiant Elementals with Shadow Visions. You know, you can have 2 Radiant Elementals, Shadow Visions and Shadow Visions, repeat that for infinite. And then you also have a Raza hero power, so you can Void form your opponent multiple times, right? Like infinite amount of times, which is insane. But outside of the combo deck, I don't think Shadow Reaper Anduin is good. It's not the card you want to put in every single priest deck. So by definition, that is a 2-star card. Alright, Devcore, thanks for the donation, says, imagine you could give Blackguard lifesteal and your hero has lost a lot of life. Full clear PogChamp. You can't actually give any units lifesteal in the set. Currywurst, thanks for the $3. Have you heard about the massive earthquake in China? I have not heard about that. Combo Fervor, thanks for the $3.35. Shadow Ascendant plus Drakari Enchanter or Tar Creeper for the combo Priest Kappa. I think that's a bit too cute. But then Tar Creeper and Shadow Ascendant might be just good on themselves. And finally, PPAP, thanks for the Apple Pen. Alright. Onwards to Rogue. What is Rogue getting this time? Well, starting with a pretty underwhelming card. 2 mana Leeching Poison. Give your weapon lifesteal. Now, why the heck would you want to give your weapon lifesteal for the cost of 2 mana? Okay? 2 mana! That's like Healing Touch, but like, what are you healing touching? It's not even good, right? Like, this is actually abysmal. It does not give you any board wipe. It's actually literally gives you health back on the weapon that's gonna go away. It's gonna disappear. It's not like a minion with lifesteal. And minions with lifesteals kind of last forever, right? And if they don't, well, at least your opponent killed it, right? So actually trade it for something. Leeching Poison does not trade for anything. This is abysmal. This is terrible. 0 stars. You don't want to play this. $200 donation ignored. Now, guys, the $200 donation was actually just 200 rupees or something. Like 200. It was 200 nothing. It converted to 335. So yeah, whatever. Okay. Well, I still appreciate the 335 donation. Okay, but it's not 200. Okay, good. Next we have Plague Scientist. 3 mana 2/3 with combo. Give a friendly minion poisonous. So technically, you just want to trade off your Swashbucklers or your Hucksters. You know, you want to trade upwards of your small minions that actually have a battle cry, the Druid card, and you want to do that. But the reward is you're only getting a 3 mana 2/3. This reminds me of Emperor Cobra, right? Where it's literally a 3 mana 2/3 that has poisonous, but instead this gives something else poisonous. Another problem with this card is that you're in the class with god loads of removal. You have sap, right? You have Eviscerate, you have Backstab, you have Assassinate even if you want removal, right? And Plague Scientist is not going to be that good in such a temple-oriented deck in the form of Rogue. So this card is pretty bad. I'm gonna just give this 1 star. Next we have Bone Baron. It is a 5 mana 5/5 with Death Rattle. Add 2 1/1 skeletons to your hand. So that's pretty. Yeah, that's a lot of There's a lot of value for a 5-drop. 5 mana 5/5 that draws 2 1/1s. So, that's pretty good. Unfortunately, if you want to play like a Quest Rogue or something like that, you're just gonna play like Igneous Elemental instead, because that's cheaper and that gives you 1/2s instead. This is also a little awkward because well, 1/1s don't really do too much on the board. Sure, you can combo them, like you can play a 1/1 Eviscerate, you can play a 1/1 and SI7 or something like that, but yeah, it's not gonna be too impressive. At the end of the day, it's still a lot of value. It is a Death Rattle card, so if you're playing like N'Zoth Rogue or something, that might be good. If you Shadowcaster this could be okay, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's as premium as other Rogue cards are. I'm still gonna give this 3 stars, so I still think you might want to consider this. There might be like a Death Rattle Rogue that goes like, oh yeah, I can use this value, but overall, I don't think this is too impressive. And that's the skeleton. Alright, next we have 2 mana Roll the Bones. For 2 mana, you get to draw a card. Okay, that's not that impressive, but if it has Death Rattle, you get to cast it again. So literally, you can 2 mana draw your whole deck if you have all Death Rattles, but obviously you don't want to do that, right? You wouldn't have enough Death Rattles that sometimes you want to draw 2 cards, sometimes if you're lucky you draw 3 cards and whatever. Yeah, as a constructed card, this is just not good enough. As a 2 mana draw card, because you are going to play your Backstabs, you are going to play your Eviscerates, right? Those cards are just too efficient for you to not play. And if you're only drawing 1 card off of 2 mana, it is not going to be good enough. I cannot imagine a Death Rattle deck even that wants this effect. So I'm gonna just give this 0. I don't think this is actually going to be played. It's just bad. Shadowblade. Ooh, now we can see something interesting as a rogue card. It's a 3 mana 3/2 weapon, which we know is really, really good, right? Like 3 mana 3/2 weapons are very nice. It also has a very relevant battle cry. Your hero is immune this turn. So it basically means 3 mana 3/2 restore some health to your hero. Why is this card good? Well, you go like, wow, okay, sure, restore some health. Why is that good? Like, your hero is immune, okay, sure, gain 2 health, gain 3 health, whatever. No, this is actually good because True Silver Champion, right? It's a very good example and something that exists already that goes, wow, this is a card you really want to play. So Shadowblade is a good card. For a 3-mana 3/2 weapon is nothing to scoff at already, right? And the fact that it does restore some health, so it's kind of like incidental healing, makes this card really, really nice. As a rogue, you are going to use a lot of health, right? You are going to use your face a lot to trade minions, to trade 1 health minions and stuff like that. And, you know, this just gives you a big buffer. So Shadowblade, I think it's a good card. I think it's actually 4 stars. You do want to play this card. I think it's good. Runeforge Haunter is the evolution of Runeforge Ghastly. It's 4 mana 5/3 with, during your turn, your weapon doesn't lose durability. So technically speaking, it adds a durability to your weapon. So you really want to use this on, you know, a weapon that's not your hero power. You want to use this on maybe your Shadowblade that was just revealed. You want to maybe use it on the poisonous weapon. That could be cool. But it's a 4 mana 5/3. 4 mana 5/3 is like kind of decent. You know, Tomb Pillager is a 4 mana 5/4, which is ridiculous. But a 4 mana 5/3 is a little bit less good. And then adding 1 durability to your weapon, like, yeah, sure, it could be really good, but at the same time, it could be really bad. And I don't think this is going to make the cut. It's just not good enough, right? We're gonna give this 1 star. Doomerang. For 1 mana, you get to throw your weapon at a minion. It deals its damage, and then returns to your hand. So the way that this is worded means that this will work with lifesteal weapons. This will work with poisonous weapons. And then you also get to draw a weapon, which is kind of interesting because there are some weapons that you don't actually get to draw. Quiz alert, what is the mana cost of Ashbringer? Well, it's actually 5 mana. It's a 5 mana 5/3 weapon. So that's pretty cute, right? That's pretty cool. So how good is Doomerang? Well, Doomerang basically makes it so that your hero can attack 2 times. That is the main use of this. So you can Shadowblade, you can Doomerang, and then you basically win for your twice, and then you actually get to draw another Shadowblade. So technically speaking, this does not spend the card, if you get what I mean, because you already played the card. So this is kind of like draw half a card, if you may. The only problem with this is in the rogue, I guess. That's really the only problem. Rogues tend to not have like a lot of insane weapons. So yeah, maybe you play this against a Paladin or Warrior and you actually steal the weapons through Swashbuckler and Huckster and stuff like that. That could be pretty cool. But otherwise, Doomerang, I don't think it's going to be too impressive. So we're going to give this 2 stars. Spectral Pillager, 6 mana 5/5 with combo. Deal damage equal to the number of other cards you've played this turn. So it's a 6 mana card, and it battle cries, deals damage, which you go like, wow, that's actually really, really good, right? But the problem with this card is how much damage can you actually get when you play 6 mana worth of cards? By the way, this art looks really spooky, yeah? Oh my god, like she wants your soul, okay? The answer to that is like 2 or 3, right? A 6 mana 5/5 that deals 2 damage, or a 6 mana 5/5 that deals 3 damage, like it's okay. But the requirement to play other cards this turn makes it really, really hard to make work. Like, and you also, it's a 6 mana 5/5. Now, I'm pretty off this card. I think this card is just too expensive for the effect to be good. So I'm just gonna rate this like a 1 star. I just don't think rogues like to play expensive cards like these. If they're expensive, they better be doing something good. And this is not really doing something really that good. Alright, the legendary for Rogue is Lillian Voss, which is pretty cool. It's a 4 mana 4/5, so Chill and Yeti, with Battlecry. Replace spells in your hand with random spells from your opponent's class. Now that is a very cool effect, right? So the best way to use this is that you want to draw some spells from other sources. So something like Razor Pillow would be good. You know, there might be matchups where Backstab is not good, so you just keep it in your hand. And then you Lillian Voss against something like a Paladin, and then you change all your cards into Dino Size, Lay on Hands, Spike Rich Steed, Blessing of Kings, Pawchamp, right? Like, that would be great. But you do need to actually kind of get some random spell effects to make this work, right? I don't think rogues have a shortage of this because, you know, you have swashbucklers, you have hucksters, you have like mimic pods to double up your spells and whatnot. So like, you know, that can be really good. And it has a good body itself already. So it's not like if you have no battlecry, it's going to be a bad minion. I mean, Chill and Yeti did see constructed play back in way then, right? So yeah, I think this is completely fine. I think this is a great upside because there are some matchups where your rogue spells are actually bad, right? You actually don't want sap against warrior. Like Pirate Warrior, you actually don't want sap. So I think this is actually really good. I think I'll give this a 4 stars. Because like, the battlecry is an upside on the Yeti. So I think this is good. And now we have the rogue Death Knight called Valera the Hollow. It's a 9 mana Death Knight card with battlecry. Gain stealth until your next turn. Whoa, okay, so you're actually gaining stealth on a hero. It's pretty cool. That's actually pretty cool. So it's effectively gaining ice block, okay? You get 5 armor, as with all the cards. And then you also get to have a new hero power, which is the first hero power to cost 0. Death Shadow. Passive hero power. During your turn, so at the start of every turn, you add a shadow reflection to your hand. What does the shadow reflection do, you might ask? Well, each time you play a card, the shadow reflection turns into a copy of that card. So think of it as like a shifted Zerus, right? If you backstab something, then this becomes a backstab. If you eviscerate something, this becomes an eviscerate. So that's why it costs no mana, because it mimics what cards you get to play, right? Wow. If if anything, this is like the king or queen in this case, the queen of combo cards. Not only do you get to buy an extra turn because you're actually giving rogues ice block now, right? That's actually insane. You actually get to form a turn where you actually get to miracle your opponent, right? You actually get to copy something and go off, go nuts. Right? Imagine this in like Miracle Rogue. Like this can get pretty disgusting. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what combos are gonna be insane in this, but Shadow Reflection doesn't only work on spells, it works on minions as well, right? So there's gonna be a lot of sick synergies with this. I'm just gonna give this a 4 stars because the ceiling is so high, right? Gaining Ice Block in Rogue is so good. Okay, onwards to the Shaman cards. We have Warlock. As a 2 mana 2/2 Murloc with Battlecry Freeze an enemy. So it's a little bit understated because as a 1 mana 2/1, we have Ice to meet you with the same, with literally the same effect, right? Freeze an enemy. It is a Murloc, so you can play in Murloc decks, and the freeze effect does make your opponent's combat a little bit worse. You know, I think this is just gonna be good in the Murloc Shaman deck with the quest, and nowhere else, really. Because like a 2 mana 2/2 freeze an enemy is not that good. There is a new theme in Shaman with freeze synergies, like you get rewarded with more freeze effects, but I don't think this is gonna be that good. So yeah, it also reminds me of Hydrologist, right? Hydrologist is a 2 mana 2/2 Murloc with draw a secret, right? This is kind of like that, but instead it freezes an enemy. It is a utility card, but it's not as good as Hydrologist for sure. So I'm gonna give this 2 stars. I think it's gonna be found in the Murloc Shaman deck, but nowhere else really. Ice Fishing, on the other hand, is pretty damn good. For 2 mana, you get to draw 2 cards. You get to draw 2 Murlocs from your deck. Some people are saying that, oh wow, 2 mana draw 2 Murlocs. Isn't that really bad because you're drawing 2 bad cards? Well, it is constructed. You're not going to play bad cards in your deck. So this actually might even be better than 2 mana draw 2 cards because you're drawing 2 specific cards. Imagine if your deck only has like 2 War Leaders, right? You're drawing 2 Murloc War Leaders from your deck. It's nuts, right? And then there might be some other Murlocs that you want to draw. This card could also be very insane in the Murloc Quest Shaman deck. Because, as we know, with Murloc Shamans, you run out of gas quite fast, right? So you play a lot of Murlocs, you play Giant Fin, you reload your hand, and then, you know, sometimes Sometimes you do run out of gas. Sometimes your opponent does, you know, kill all your things. This is a really insane reload. It's Arcane Intellect for 2 in Warlock Shaman because you're literally drawing 2 cards by then, right? So I think this card is really insane. We're gonna give this 4 stars. A card that you have to be very careful of if you're playing against it, and if you're playing Warlock Shaman, then you probably want to play this. All right, we have a Drakari Defender. Thanks for the sub, by the way, guys. I can't address subs when I'm doing this because otherwise it's gonna last a lifetime. Anyways, we have Drakari Defender as a 3-mana 2/8, so Death Lord stats with Taunt, so Death Lord, but Overload 3. This makes it super freaking awkward to play on turn 3. Because if you play this on turn 3, you're losing turn 4. So this is a 7-mana 2/8 Taunt, which is like, what are you doing with your life, right? Like, it's pretty bad if you do it like that. That's really all there is to say for this card. Sure, you can play this against like aggro decks, but aggro decks have a lot of damage these days, and losing a turn is actually pretty bad. Like Overload 3 is pretty... Man, Overload 3. Why is this not Overload 2, right? Overload 2, at least next turn you can play a totem or something, right? But Overload 3 is pretty backbreaking. I'm not big on this card. I'm gonna go ahead and say this is a 1-star. I think this is still playable, but god damn, it sucks. Next we have Icebreaker, 3-mana 1/3 weapon. Destroy any frozen minion damaged by this. So, you know, if you play Frost Shock, if you play the new Murloc element, the Murloc, or even the Elemental that freezes, then you can chop something up and you can let it go. 3 mana, 3 assassinates. Seems pretty good, right? My verdict is that this card is pretty awkward. If you're playing freeze effects, then like, why would you want to Icebreaker it, right? Because if you're freezing an enemy, you're effectively removing it from combat already. So if you're destroying a frozen minion, you're effectively not freezing it. You're just setting up the freeze effect for this card to work. So you're kind of, in a weird sense, 2-for-1ing yourself, because you actually lost the effect. Another way to look at this is like Hex, right? So like, this is kind of like a Hex. It still deals damage to you, and you actually need to activate this Hex every single time. It's not like this Hex is 3 hexes, right? You need to actually have a freeze effect. So all this combined makes this to be a pretty disappointing card. I think this is just gonna be 1-star. Avalanche is a 4-mana spell card with freeze a minion and deal 3 damage to adjacent ones. Basically, Meteor had a baby, and the baby, instead of dealing 15 damage, it's freezing a minion. But it's cheaper. It's only 4 mana, right? I think this card is actually pretty good against decks that, you know, play more than 2 minions at a time. This is actually a great multi-shot because it kills 2 things and also freezes a minion. How do I put this? Like, in a sense, if you play Avalanche against anything, their board is going to be crushed, because you're going to freeze the best minion, so they can't attack with that. And then you also remove the other minions, right? You can also remove just 1 minion. And this is good, right? This bit gives you a lot of time, because what you can't kill, freeze instead. And then you can... the setup of Avalanche is Volcano, right? Because you freeze them, you're going to go, it's like, oh god, I have to put more pressure on the board, and you Volcano, and then you just wipe the board. So I think it's a pretty good card. And yeah, one that it's a bit weird, but I think in practice it's going to be good. So I'm going to go ahead and give this 3 stars. Something you might want to put in your deck. Voodoo Hexa. Yeah, man. It's a 5-mana 2/7 with Taunt, and it's Snow Chugga. Back when Snow Chugga was a 2-mana 2/3 freeze any character, it was really, really good because it was basically a Frostbolt, right? On a minion that if you trade it off with something, it's like Frostbolting that, and it's also a mech. With Voodoo Hexa, you can actually activate the freeze effect, so there are a lot of different freeze, like freeze matters card that you might want to combo with. And this also has Taunt, which is actually the big thing about this minion, right? If your opponent is playing like an aggro deck, or even playing weapons, right? You actually get to mess their next turn really, really badly. And with a 7 health, which is a big butt, this is going to be really good in a lot of decks. Against a lot of decks, I mean. because you get to mess up the game plan quite a bit. So I think Voodoo Hexer is a good card. You want to put this in. I'll give this 3 stars. Alright, next we have Cryostasis. 2 mana, give a minion +3/+3 and freeze it. So you effectively give it a little bit of a weird Blessing of Kings kind of thing. Dude, I remember I made something like this before. I made Blessing of the Lich King. For 3 mana, give a minion +5/+5 and freeze it. I think that's the card I made or something like that. Yeah, which is kind of interesting. So now you can actually play this as a Shaman. It's a big buff. 2 mana +3/+3 is insane, okay? But freezing a minion makes it a little bit awkward. So say you play a 2-drop, right? They play a 2/3 or something, and then you play Cryostasis on it. So it's effectively a 5/6 for 2 cards for 4 mana, and you can't attack with it next turn. A little bit awkward. I think the only combo I foresee this deck being good against would be with Alakir. So you play Alakir, you attack once, and then you freeze it, right? And then next turn you can attack with it. As a 6/8. Wind Fury, Divine Shield, Taunt. Yeah. I think that's really the only card I can see Cryostasis working on. Because, like, what's the worst case situation? The worst case situation is you can play this on a totem, right? If you play this on a totem, you make a 4 mana 3/5 that can attack, which is like technically okay. But yeah, I guess it's really okay. So people don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so freezing a minion means that it loses its next attack. If you play Alakir, it has Wind Fury, so it's 2 attacks, right? You attack with it once, and then you Cryostasis it. It loses its next attack, which is the attack you were gonna do, and then next turn it's gonna unfreeze. Okay, you have to do it in that order. If you Cryostasis after you attack with Alakir 2 times, then you can't attack next turn because you attacked already. Does that make sense? So that's kind of like the weird combo with freeze effects. Anyways, that is how it works, by the way. So yeah, just it's okay. It's okay to not understand mechanics. I'm here to help you. Anyways, back to Cryostasis. I don't think there's a lot of combos for this card to make work. The best. Wait, fine. Another way is that you can use it on a taunt minion and make a really big taunt minion. But at the end of the day, you're still making like a Blessing of Kings, and I don't think Shaman actually want Blessing of Kings mechanics. You actually just want to make more minions and whatnot. And I think this is actually unplayable if you don't have a good minion to buff it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give this like, man, I want to give this 2 stars, but I don't think it's that good. I think I'm gonna give this 1 star. Yeah, I'm gonna give this 1 star. I don't think it's that good. You use it on a taunt minion like Tar Creeper or Senjin or Voodoo Hexer. But then, okay, fine. Maybe then it's okay. Okay, fine. I changed my mind again. You use it on a taunt minion is okay. Alright, I'll give this 2 stars. I just don't like cards that require you to have another card to be good. Snow Fury Giant. It's an 11 mana, 8/8 elemental. It costs 1 less for each mana crystal you've overloaded this game. Okay, so we finally have 11 mana cards. So that means shamans can evolve their 10 mana cards. So like, you know, the old gods are all 10 mana. So they actually turn into Snow Fury Giant now. Once again, you have to be very careful of cards that can cost 0, right? Arcane Giant was a card that was played in some combo decks. It wasn't insane, like I predicted correctly. Okay, Arcane Giant wasn't insane. But Snow Fury Giant is one of those cards where it costs 0. You do need to overload 11 mana crystals, which is pretty difficult to do, right? Like Lightning Storm is 2, Volcano is 2. There are a lot of ones like Lightning Bolts and Storm Cracks and whatnot, but yeah, I can see this working in a control deck, right? Like control decks, you just want to keep on wiping the board, and you want to play 2 Snow Fury Giants and you know, going over the top, you know, of your opponent. So this makes sense. This is also an elemental, so maybe Elemental Shaman could make use of this, like more, you know, a more value-oriented deck, and then go over the top with Volcano and then double Snow Fury Giant. I can see that being a turn. So yeah, any cards that have a chance to cost 0 would naturally be good. So I'll give this 3 stars. I think 3 stars would be a fair rating for this. I don't think it's insane. because overloading crystals is actually pretty difficult to do. Alright, and now we have the legendary Shaman creature, which is Murabi. 6 mana 4/4. Whenever another minion is frozen, add a copy of it into your hand. So it's kind of weird in the sense that it only draws you cards if you actually apply frozen effects. And of course it doesn't duplicate itself because it's another another minion. Yeah, it's a little bit weird. As a 6 mana 4/4 draw a card is not as good. So you do need to activate it multiple times for it to be actually good, and you're playing a value game in that sense. It's interesting interaction with Frozen Crusher, I guess, because you know, you play Frozen Crusher and then you play Murabi. Frozen Crusher freezes itself, you get a Frozen Crusher, you know, it's kind of cute, but I think as a 4/4 in Constructed, it's not going to be too good, right? You're drawing cards that are minions, which are not really that good, and you're also not drawing cards from your deck, right? So that's also really not that good. So I'm going to go ahead and just rate this like 1 star. I don't think you actually want this in any Shaman deck. Sure, you can evolve this afterwards, but you really want this for the effect, right? So I'd rather just play another 6-drop. Alright, now we have Thrall Deathseer, which is the hero card for Shaman. It is a 5 mana Death Knight card. It is very, very, very cheap. What does it do? Battlecry. Transform your minions into random ones that cost 2 more. So you get to evolve your minions twice. Which is kind of interesting, right? You know, evolving your minions effectively give them +1/+1, right? Technically speaking, like on average. So you're giving your minions +2/+2 for 5, which is, you know, which is fine. Which is like, you know, anything can happen. I think, or everything is awesome. One of those cards, right? That gives all your minions +2/+2, which is pretty good. You gain 5 armor, as of all hero cards, and your hero part becomes Transmute Spirit, which transforms a friendly minion into a random one that costs 1 more. Oh my god, that is like a lot of evolved shenanigans. So is this actually good? Well, I think this is actually pretty good. If you're actually doing a go wide strategy, right, which is playing a lot of minions, and then you're evolving them, that could actually give you a big tempo swing, right? You have to, like I said, you're effectively giving your minions +2/+2. And then every time your opponent doesn't kill one of your minions, you can either go face of a minion, evolve it, or you can trade with something, like do some combat and then evolve it, which is effectively restore a minion to full health and then give it +1/+1. So that's a lot of value. And what is the worst situation? Well, the worst situation is that you play, well, I don't know, Thing from Below, for example, and then you Transmute Spirit it immediately and get a 7-drop. Wow, that's a lot of value in 1 card. Yeah. Seems pretty good to me. I think there's going to be decks that play around it. At the end of the day, though, it is an evolve effect. You know, competitive decks usually don't quite like evolve decks because, you know, they tend to be pretty random. They tend to border on your opponents not killing your minions, which on some matchups is actually pretty hard to do. But I think this effect is good enough. The payoff is good enough to warrant you, like the hero part is really, really good, right? To warrant you to want to actually mess with this card. And of course, our favorite 10 mana combo, Doppelgangster into Thrall Deathseer. No longer are you going to get a 6 mana 1/1 because you're going to make them into 7-drops. That might be a thing. Oh, I guess I'll give this card, I want to give this card 4 stars. But I think in practice, it's going to just be a 3. Yeah, I think it's going to be a 3-star. I don't think it's going to be, I want this to be a 4-star, but I think it's just me, right? Like realistically, I think it's a 3-star card. Whew, okay, onwards to Warlock. 2 more classes to go. We have Sanguine Reveler. It's a 1 mana 1/1. Battlecry, destroy a friendly minion and gain +2/+2. So it's the new Zoo card, which is a little bit awkward because, well, if you're killing one of your own 1/1s, then effectively it's a 1 mana 2/2. It's not like breaking the game or anything. I guess the best target you want this to be in is you want to put it on the 3 mana 0/3 that makes a 5/5, the egg. So then if you play 2 Sanguine Revelers and 2 Void Terrors, you actually get to pull off that combo quite well as well. Power Overwhelming is banned right now, so you can't go like Power Overwhelming a creature and then Sanguine Reveler to make a 1 mana 3/3 and cheat it like that. So that doesn't quite happen. So yeah, out of all those things added together, I think this is still a good card. But Zoo is in a problem state where it actually did not get a lot of support from the new cards. So I'm just gonna rate Sanguine Reveler a 3-star and be happy and be okay with it. I think it's a good card, but I think it's also not in the right environment for it to truly shine. 2 mana Drain Soul. As a Warlock spell, deal 2 damage to a minion with Lifesteal. Now this is a very, very good card. Because people are thinking, right? What if Drain Life was 2 mana? Drain Life was actually is actually literally the same card, right? 3 mana, deal 2 damage, restore 2 health to your hero. Drain Life can go face. Drain Soul hits minions only, right? So that is kind of like not the same card, but come on, let's be honest. Drain Soul is just a better Drain Life. 2 mana for deal 2, restore 2 is really, really good. Bash was played in Warlock, right? Deal 3 and restore 3. And it was good. It wasn't insane because Fire War Axe, right? You're giving lifesteal to a class that has life tap. Now that is insane. Would you play a card that says 4 mana, deal 2 damage, draw a card? Yeah, you would. Would you want to play a 4 mana, deal 2 damage, draw a card, and sometimes you can just use it as a lifesteal? Yes, you even will want to do that. This also benefits from a little bit of spell power. So if you play Thalnos in your handlock decks, which you probably might, then you get to restore 3 health and deal 3 damage. Like, that's pretty cool. So I think Drain Soul is actually really, really strong. And handlocks or control locks or even Mally locks might want to consider this. Mally lock with Drain Soul, yeah, that could be a thing, man. Mally locks did lose Emperor Thaurissan, so it's going to be a little harder to make work. But I think this is still a very solid card. I'm going to give this 4 stars. Howl Fiend is a very troll card. It's a 3 mana 3/6 demon with, whenever this minion takes damage, discard a random card. Oh god. So you're paying a hefty price for a big body, which is, yeah, it's above the curve, right? 3 mana 3/6 is super above the curve. Usually you only get 3/6s at 5 mana. So at the cost of 2 mana reduction, you just get to lose your whole hand, right? Awesome. We're gonna see another card that actually combos with this card. You know, you kind of can tell why this is in the game. But as a card, if you want to be normal and play this card normally as a 3 mana 3/6, you're gonna be pretty sad, right? This could see play in Zoo. I think this is the only card. This is the only archetype that could actually play this card normally, because, you know, Zoo, you might not actually have any cards, and playing a 3 mana 3/6 is going to be above the curve, and you can actually smart quite a bit, right? So yeah, I'll give Howl Fiend a 2-star. I think it only belongs in the Zoo deck, and otherwise I don't think it's gonna be a good card. Defile is the 2 mana AoE spell for Warlocks. Deal 1 damage to all minions. If any die, cast this again. Now, this has a lot of potential to be pretty ridiculous because it is a 2 mana AoE. Like, 2 mana AoEs usually are pretty weak in the form of, you know, Arcane Explosion, you know, Spirit Lash, which is the new thing. But this could be pretty cool because you have Possessed Villager. Possessed Villager is actually an activation for Defile, where you can play Possessed Villager, play Defile, and you actually get to smork, you actually get to AoE the board for 3. Not only that, if any of those 3 health minions die, you get to AoE for 4. You have to AoE for 5. And that can get pretty nutsos pretty damn fast. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Thank God in-game boss is no longer in the game. I mean, imagine some wild decks with in-game boss and Defile. That's actually a board clear, right? That could be pretty nutsos. But yeah, Defile is also really strong on its own against some decks like Pirate decks or like even Paladin, for example. Like there's gonna be like targets for it, right? And if you have a 2 mana card that says deal 2 damage to all minions, you're gonna be pretty happy with it. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty high on Defile. I think you do need to make a little bit of work to make this work. but I think the payoff is there. So I'm gonna give this 4 stars. Unwilling Sacrifice is a 3 mana card. Choose a friendly minion, and you get to destroy it and a random enemy minion. So at first glance, you go like, what the hell is this? Why would you want to play this? Because it's a worse deadly shot, right? Well, you want to play this because you want to kill your own minions, right? So the first thing that comes up would be the 0/3 egg, right? If you have the 0/3 egg, you play Unwilling Sacrifice, not only are you getting 5/5, you're actually killing an enemy minion as well. Wow, it's like, yay, whatever, right? Why is that bad? Because you're spending 2 cards to make a 5/5, and you're destroying a random enemy minion. So that's not even that impressive, right? Like, oh, yay, you get to kill something, right? Cool. So overall, I don't think it's that good. I think you'll be happier just playing your normal removal package like Soulfire. You can even play like the new Soul Drain, right? Drain Soul, yeah. Like that seems like fine. And you can just play your Hellfires and Shadow Flames and your Siphon Souls. I don't think you actually want this. The combo potential for this would be just to, you know, use it on something to a value, and I don't think it's good enough. So I'm gonna give this a 1 star. Oh god, Despicable Dreadlord. 5 mana, 4/5 demon. Okay, that seems like it's relevant, right? 5 mana, 4/5. It's a little bit below the curve. What does it do? At the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. Okay, so you get to cast a free Arcane Explosion at the end of your turn. Okay, what? This card is nuts. This card is actually ridiculous. Not only does it have an immediate effect, right? Because technically speaking, it's Battlecry, right? Battlecry, deal 1 damage to all minions. If your opponent doesn't kill it, you get to do it again. And your opponent has to play around this shenanigan, okay? Say you're playing against a Paladin, right? And your opponent has no board. They can't Hero Power, because it literally does not work. What if you have 2 Despicable Dreadlords? What the heck? And it's also demon, so it benefits from demon synergies. And Warlocks don't actually have good 5 mana demons. They have Doomguard, which is not really a 5 mana demon. Well, it's a 5 mana demon in Zoo decks, right? But this is not a Zoo card. This is more of a, you know, control mid-range card, like mid-range demon maybe. I think this card is actually insane. Like, holy jeez, if your opponent cannot deal with this, their board is just like on defiled ground, right? Like, how can they actually play any more minions? Oh, this is just insane. Like, this also kind of like, it's like a raid leader, right? Because if you're dealing 1 damage to all enemy minions, you're kind of giving all your minions +1 attack in a sense, right? In a kind of a weird way. So I'm gonna give this 5 stars. I think this is actually gonna be pretty format defining and gonna be found in demon decks. There are some decks that just can't beat this card as well, right? Like, how do you think that Pirate Warrior is gonna beat this card? You play this on 5, boom, you're stabilized, right? And then, you know, Warlocks have a lot of restore health mechanics now. You know, they're just like this. Oh my god, this is just gonna be abysmal against some people. This is a great card. Nosferatu is a 2 mana 2/3, so very good stats. You know, passes the vanilla test. With Battlecry, remove the top card of your opponent's deck. So you literally mill your opponent for a card. It is an epic. So why is this card bad? Because people don't understand like how milling kind of works, I guess. Yeah, a lot of people think this card is good because they go like, oh my god, if I can remove his ice block, if it's a freeze, okay, freeze mage is dead, never mind. If I can remove his Antonidas, if I can remove his Spike Steed, oh my god, if I remove one of his bomb cards, I just win the game! Wow, Palm Chat, that is insane! Well, let me tell you that actually doesn't matter, because if you're milling your opponent's card, it's the same as saying put the top card of your opponent's deck to the bottom of their card. The removing part only matters if you get your opponent to fatigue, okay? It only matters if you get your opponent to fatigue, because then they actually do get to lose a card. If your game does not go to fatigue, then this is a 2 mana 2/3 do nothing, okay? Sure, you can say that, oh, you get to scout your opponent's deck. Or you actually know that they lost a Siphon Soul, you don't have to play around Siphon Soul anymore. Well, that's just called being a bad player. Because if you're a good player, you already know kind of what your opponent has in their hand, and you don't need scouting information, okay? So overall, this is not a good card, and you do not want to play this. You do not want to play this card outside of a mill lock. And last time I heard, there is no mill lock deck type. Okay, like there is no card that mills your opponents right now. So yeah, Bran is no longer in the set in standard as well, so you can do like Bran double Gnomes Frastu and then bounce them back and mill them more, right? Because mill is better in multiples, right? So yeah, Gnome Frastu is not gonna work, at least not in this current set. Maybe the next expansion is gonna be more mill cards, but for now this is gonna be a easy 0-star. This card is unplayable. All right. Here's Treachery, 3 mana spell. Now we know why the fluffy... Oh, it's not called Fluffy Fell Beast. It's called... what the heck is it called again? Howlfiend. Now we know why Howlfiend is actually in the game, right? Treachery is a 3 mana card. Choose a friendly minion and give it to your opponent and donate it to your opponent. Wow. That's that is one of the weirdest cards ever. So there are 2 things that immediately come to mind, right? So first of all, you want to give them the Howl Beast, right? So that or Howl Fiend, whatever you call that card, so that you actually give it to your opponent, and then you hit it, and then your opponent discards all their cards. Hopefully they're like a mid-range or control deck, and then you go like, haha, now you're out of cards. The second combo is with Doomsayer, right? You can play Doomsayer, you can give it to your opponent, and then it's the start of their turn. Haha, it's a board clear. Both of those effects seem pretty fringe, okay? I think the Howlfiend one actually might matter more, because discarding your opponent's cards is a very strong effect, right? It's so strong that Blizzard does not want to put them in any of the effects, right? This is literally the first card that makes your opponent discard cards, comboed or something else. So that's more relevant. I don't think Treacherying a Doomsayer is good. The part that what makes Doomsayer good is because it is a 0/7. It's because your opponent has the option to kill it that makes it good. Because sometimes it soaks damage, and sometimes, you know, it blows up the board. You do not want to spend an additional card to make Doomsayer work. That is just not what you call value, right? And also, if you're playing Doomsayer, Treachery only literally works on Doomsayer. What else does it work on? It doesn't work on anything else. So Treachery is basically a 1-star. It's 1-star because it works with Howlfiend and nothing else. Blood Queen Lanethel. It's a 5 mana 1/6 with lifesteal. Has +1 attack for each card you discard this game. So lifesteal is a very good mechanic, like we mentioned, and you have to discard cards to buff Blood Queen. So if you discard 2 cards, so for example, if you play the Doom Guard, then you actually have a 5 mana 3/6 lifesteal, which is pretty good, right? Well, here's the thing. What do you want to play this in? Okay, so let's figure it out. So if you're playing a Zoo deck, right, you want to discard cards because you can get them back with Malkazar's Imp. You can actually get Silverware Golems of it. So there's a lot of good stuff about discarding stuff, right? But then why would you want to play Blood Queen Lanethel, which is basically like a 3/6 and 4/6 with lifesteal? When you play Zoo, don't you just want like aggressive cards and you just want to go face and stuff like that? Okay, so Zoo is kind of awkward. It's relevant, but it's not insanely good, right? It's like fine. In Control or in Handlock, why in the world do you want to discard your cards? You never want to discard your cards, okay? If there is a world where you play Malkazar's Imp with Control, then maybe this is good, because Lifesteal is a very good card for like racing purposes and also for control decks, right? To restore health. But like, you don't want to discard cards. You really don't. And if you're going to rely on just Malkazar's Imp with your discard cards, you're not going to have a good time. So overall, there's a lot of situations where this card just does not make the cut, right? Like, it's a strong card, but it just does not fit anywhere. It's like really awkward. It's like doing something that's really powerful, but the opposite of what you want to do with this card. The payoff is like the opposite. So because of that, we're not going to be too happy with this card. We're going to give this a 2 stars. It's not going to be that good. Oh boy. Okay. We have the Death Knight card for Warlock. It is Blood Reaver Gul'dan. It is the only 10 mana Death Knight. Okay, if you're going to pay 10 mana for a card, it better be doing something insane, right? Well, it does do something insane. Battle Cry. Summon all friendly demons that died this game. That is a really good effect. Like, really, really good. Because there are a lot of demons that have effects, right? Okay, so then you gain 5 armor, sure. And then what? You change your hero power to this. Siphon Life. It's a hero power that deals 3 damage and life steals. Okay, okay. Let's calm down first. Let's calm down. Let's go back to the first effect. Summon all friendly demons that died this game. This is an effect that very reminiscent of N'Zoth, right? N'Zoth summons all Death Rattle creatures, so it does something immediately. Now, why is this even more insane? Because most demons actually do something when they're played, okay? So you have stuff like Doomguard. You have stuff like, you know, the new demon, right? Despicable Dreadlord. What if you play Blood Reaver Gul'dan and you get back 2 Doomguards and 2 Despicable Dreadlords? That's insane. Yeah, that's actually insane. There's some 6/6s that you can get back, like some Infernos that you can get back, which is still fine, right? 10 mana summon some 6/6s. That's great. So the battle cry is already really good. You get 5 armor, so that's just like a little, it's just a little bit of like a little extra bonus. But oh my god, is this hero power insane? Is this hero power not insane to you guys? Deal 3 damage, restore 3 life to your hero. Keep in mind that this deal 3 damage can go face. So now you turn into like a hunter, you can turn into you can just face your opponent for 3 and heal yourself for 3, you can just remove minions all day. This hero part is like nutsos, okay? Like, what are you doing with this? What the heck is this? This hero part is like out of this world good, right? So, relevant battle cry, a little bit of a bonus of armor, and a very, very good hero power. I think this is just 5 stars. This is insane. I'm going to be super excited to play a demo lock in the new expansion. Like, man, this is actually nuts. Actually nuts. Oh, baby. Alright, Onwards to Warrior, last class. Okay, so we have 1 mana 1/3 animated Berserker. So 1 mana 1/3s are usually really good. It says after you play a minion, deal 1 damage to it. Okay, no, you do not want these type of effects. You do not want to activate your other, you know, damage matters cards for the price of making minions lose a stat. Like, you don't want to do that, man. There is only one combo piece that I can imagine this being good in, is Sudden Genesis, right? So you can play Animated Berserker, and then you can Sudden Genesis something insane, and then you can have like a full board or something, right? Like, that could be crazy, but otherwise, I don't think this is gonna make the cut. I think this is actually pretty bad. It's just a 1-star card. If you want to deal damage to your own minions, do it in some other way, okay? We'll see later. We'll see later. Forge of Souls. Wow. Blizzard is printing a lot of 2 mana spells that draws 2, right? I think this is actually pretty exciting. Forge of Souls is 2 mana, draw 2 weapons from your deck. That is actually pretty nuts, alright? Unfortunately, comparing this to Ice Fishing, Forge of Souls might actually be a little bit worse because you're actually drawing weapons. Weapons don't stack too well because, well, by definition, you can only have 1 weapon on your hero at any one time, right? Extra weapons aren't actually that good because you can't play multiple of them. But 2 mana draw 2 is really, really good. So this is like the first card I go like, maybe it's good in decks with only 1 copy, right? Because usually you just want 2 copies of each card, right? Because why not, right? If they're powerful enough, then why don't have 2? But this seems like a card that's only 1 of, because after you draw 2 weapons, the second copy is not gonna be any better because at the end of the day you're drawing weapons, right? And then also you might not have any more weapons to draw. So yeah, I think this is a good one of, and I think the effect is really strong because it's draw 2. Oh, let's rate this 3 stars. I think this is a good card. Blood Razor. Now, you were asking me how to deal 1 damage to your minions, right? This is the premium way to do it. Blood Razor is a 4 mana 2/2 weapon with Battle Cry and Death Rattle. Deal 1 damage to all minions. So it's a 4 mana 2/2, cast Whirlwind on play and on death. Reminds me a lot of Deathspite. Deathspite is only Death Rattle and it's a little bit stronger body. But the Battle Cry is actually pretty strong. So how I see it is that it's kind of like 2 swipes baked into 1 card, right? So it's deal 3 damage to 1 minion and deal 1 to everything else, and then you can do it again. next turn with Blood Razor, right? The second activation, you can actually do it on, you know, things that you want to damage, right? So like Acolyte of Pain or the new warrior cards that we're going to see later. So the second effect is also very relevant. This card just literally demolishes the board, okay? It just wrecks the board. Swipe is 4 mana. This is 2 swipes for 4, right? Ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. 5 stars. Easy 5 stars. Mountain Fire Armor. It's a 3 mana 4/3 Death Rattle. If it's your opponent's turn, you get to gain 6 armor. So it's a kind of a weird card in a sense that it's a 3 mana 4/3, so it's a good stat line, right? If your opponent kills it, you gain 6 armor. So it's really weird because, like, okay, you're gaining armor. You want your opponent to kill it. Something just doesn't match up, right? Because if you're playing Mountain Fire Armor and you want the armor, you're playing control, but then you want to trade more of your control. So, you know, would you want to go face with Mountain Fire Armor and just force your opponent to kill it? The answer is sometimes yes. Sometimes yes. Because, like, a 4/3 does hit pretty hard. So if you keep on attacking your opponent's face and your opponent is forced to kill this, then you're actually getting a ridiculous rate. 3 mana 4/3 gain 6 armor is pretty ridiculous. And then you go like, okay, well, can I actually force my opponent to kill this? What if I buff this up? Well, warriors don't really have buffs, right? What if I taunt this up? Okay, where's a few taunt givers? You know, that might be a thing. So, like, you know, there might be a few situations where you can actually make this work. But I think the like the challenge of making your opponent kill this is definitely there. So I would give this 3 stars. I think it's a good card, but this is a deck building challenge. Valkyr Soulclaimer, 3 mana 1/4. Whenever this minion survives damage, summon a 2/2 ghoul. So, you know, works on Whirlwind, works on Taskmaster, you know, stuff like that, right? Blood Razor would be really good. 3 mana 1/4. So 3 mana 1/4, if it gets hurt, it's a 3 mana 1/3 summon a 2/2, which is not good. Okay? You do not want to play a 3 mana 1/3 summon a 2/2. Would you play a 3 mana 1/2 summon 2/2/2s? Okay, now we're talking. Now that is getting pretty good. So you do want this to, you know, activate 2 times for it to be good. I think this card is actually pretty interesting because it's another Acolyte of Pain type of card, where if you play 2 Acolytes and 2 Valkyr Soulclaimers, you actually get to double down on your Whirlwind effects. So when you have a lot of volume of these cards, they get better as general, right? Although I think this is a little bit understated. So I'm going to give this 2 stars. I don't think it's going to make the cut on a lot of Whirlwind effects, but for a specific deck, it might actually be good. Death Revenants is a 5 mana 3/3. Battlecry, gain +1/+1 for each damage minion. Oh god, no. Why would I want to play this? Okay, well, I want to play this if I want to make a big creature, right? Like a 5 mana 6/6 or even a 5 mana 7/7. But it requires damage minions. And there are a lot of matchups where there actually are no damage minions on the board. So yeah, I'm definitely very off this. I think Frothing Berserker is just better. And this is a 5 mana card that requires, you know, you to have a board with damage minions so they're not gone. And you make a big card. No. I'm definitely off this for constructed. 0 stars. Alright. Dead Man's Hand. 3 aces and 2 eights, right? Shuffle a copy of your hand into your deck. Oh god, no. Okay, so you're not affecting the board. You're not drawing any cards. You're just literally filling your deck with cards that you have right now. The only combo I can see is you want to shuffle Patches, but then you're paying 2 mana to do shuffle Patches in your deck. Oh god damn it, what the heck am I doing with this? Like, I just don't foresee a combo with this card being good. So yeah, this would be 0 stars. Thanks for watching. Bring it on! It's a 2 mana card, gain 10 armor, which is, well, that's really good. That's a lot of armor, right? What does it have? Reduce the cost of minions in your opponent's hand by 2? Okay. Well, that is definitely a very bring it on taunt warrior, right? You're actually giving taunt to your face. This is actually pretty interesting. Against combo decks, this is kind of cute because you actually get the 10 armor. Unfortunately, that's a big problem, right? Against combo decks, if you reduce their minions by 2, they get to Lyra and Radiant Elemental for cheaper. They get to Antonidas for cheaper. They get to Auctioneer for cheaper, so that's no good. Okay, what if you play against aggro? They get to play their entire hand, and you just got 10 armor. Would your opponent give you 10 armor for more mana? Yes, they would. And you spend the card for it? Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. I am off this card. The only card I can see this being good against would be in some sort of weird OTK decks where, you know, if the Alexstrasza charge Gorehowl thing comes back again, then maybe, but I'm definitely off this card. It's only good against very number heavy combo decks. So I'm gonna give this 1 star. Finally, we have Rotface. It's an 8 mana 4/6. Okay, 8 mana 4/6 is pretty bad. What does it have? Whenever this minion survives damage, summon a random legendary minion. Wow. So this is like Confessor Paltress for warriors. And it activates when, you know, you make a whirlwind effect. Or when you deal 1 damage to it or whatever, right? So a random legendary minion. There are a lot of random legendary minions that are really bad. But there are a lot that are pretty good. I just don't think that you want this in Constructed because you're making a legendary that you have no control over. And it's also 8 mana, so you effectively have to play it with Blood Razor or whatnot. And yeah, if it survives damage, right? So if your opponent removes this, or if they, you know, even kill this or whatever, like overkill or just kill it with damage, right? It actually doesn't trigger. So yeah, I feel like this is like a Paltress, where you just have to combo it off. And if you don't combo it off, this card is just trash. So it does not belong in every single warrior deck. I actually don't think it's even that good in a dedicated whirlwind deck because it's a random legendary minion in the first place. So I'm gonna give this 1 star. Alright, final Death Knight. We have Scourgelord Garrosh, 8 mana, 4, equip 4/3 Shadowmourne, so weapon, that also damages adjacent minions, so it cleaves. So that's pretty cool. Gives you 5 armor, and the hero power becomes Blade Storm. It's a hero power that deals 1 damage to all minions. Okay. Well, seems like Scourgelord Garrosh wants to take control of the board quite well. It, you know, if you hit something, you can actually hit for 12 because it cleaves. And then your Bone Storm. The Bone Storm hero power is actually pretty relevant because your opponent can't play any more 1 health creatures. And Blade Storm could actually activate some of your other minions, other creatures as well. The main problem with this is that you do lose the Warrior hero power. I think losing the Warrior hero power is actually pretty big. You know, Warrior hero power kind of sucks. You gain 2 armor. Why wouldn't you want to gain 2 armor? The whole point of gaining 2 armor is because you're making a deck that centers on gaining 2 armor. You want to play big stuff. You want to outlast your opponent, right? So then Blade Storm is another way of outlasting your opponent. But yeah, I don't think if this is going to be better than armor up in some cases. So it's kind of weird. The weapon is kind of cute. But I think the weapon is not going to be as effective as people think, because when you're facing down against a Shadowmourne, you're going to play in a way where Shadowmourne is not going to be as good versus you as possible, right? So in that sense, is Scourgelord Garrosh a good smart card? Well, not really. Arcane Reaper is better, right? So overall, I think Scourgelord Garrosh has a lot of effects that are good, but they don't really synergize well with what the deck is trying to do. In a sense, right? Like the hero power and the weapon doesn't really make sense together. And I think Blade Storm is also a very hard hero power to make work. So I'm just going to give this 3 stars. I don't think it's an auto-include in any warrior deck. If you want to play some whirlwind decks with like something to synergize with it, sure. But yeah, not good enough. Oh god, okay, that was all the class cards. That took a while. Holy Jesus, that took a long time. Ed, good luck, my friend.